I was very scary. She had no emotion. She had no remorse. She had nothing, no feelings whatsoever. You know what I mean? I cried harder than she did. I mean, I couldn't even eat my food. I pushed it away, couldn't even eat my food. She ate like normal.
This is Alan Helmick. On June 10th, 2008, Alan's wife Miriam returns home to find Alan lying on the kitchen floor with a gunshot wound to the back of the head. When Mesa County, Colorado police arrive at the scene, they launch a homicide investigation. Investigators soon identify that the crime scene appears staged to look like a robbery, and Miriam seems strangely calm. In the first video of this series, detectives conduct a full police interrogation with Miriam, starting to suspect that there's more to this grieving widow than meets the eye. In the second video, investigators question those closest to Miriam and Alan, and uncover a real-life horror story with secret affairs, years of fraud, and a string of suspicious deaths going back decades. As they continue to build their case, investigators bring in someone close to Miriam, the woman who ran the Helmick's horse stable, Stephanie Soule, and her husband, Brian.
Tell me about your relationship with the Helmicks.
My relationship with them started, I believe it was around March of 2007.
Okay.
And she contacted me about riding lessons.
Okay.
And I, started instructing her on my horse. And then I can't remember when this kind of evolved into, she wanted to pursue this more and more, and then they decided, or she actually kind of decided that maybe it should be a business and they should buy and sell some horses, and they had this property and they could develop it into a training center. And then it became, let's have a horsey subdivision, we're gonna subdivide our land and we're gonna have some lots, and that's kind of how all of that proceeded until December.
Okay.
And December 30th, I turned in my 30 days notice.
In reference, did you have a contract?
I did.
Okay, who provided you with the contract?
He did.
He did, okay. So, reading between the lines, Alan was more the business end of it?
Yes, and he became that way. My initial contact was all with her.
Okay.
Other than the actual signing the contract when we went through, I don't even know how many revisions of the contract.
There's probably half a dozen revisions.
But my day-to-day was with her.
Okay.
Until near the end of my employment, when he stepped in more and more. And I got the feeling that he stepped in, well, I know she wasn't very truthful with him about some financial matters regarding the horses and that type of thing, and that's when he stepped in more.
Okay, tell me about those.
My memory is kind of vague. It started off as little bitty things. Changes to the facility. I was consulting with them on developing their facility, from simple basic things to, layout of where the horses were kept in paddocks to, long-term planning of, arenas and more permanent barns and indoor arenas and that type of thing.
So you actually went to the Whitewater
yeah.
residence
Daily.
and you were looking,
Okay. Daily. Very close interaction with her. And like I said, he not so much until the end. And very much treated, with a lot of respect initially and in a consultative capacity.
Okay.
And I can remember because I kept a log for myself of how many hours I spent with each horse and kind of what I did day to day, so I would be able to refer to back to progress and things.
Sure.
And I can remember her asking me to put down more time than I had spent and that type of thing. And I was on a guaranteed amount of money, so the time initially was somewhat irrelevant. But she wanted to dictate that there was a little bit more involved than there was at that time to prepare him for the future, is what she would say. And, I told her at that time I wasn't really comfortable, if a horse took 10 minutes, it took 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If it took an hour and 10 minutes, it took an hour and 10 minutes.
Now you're training for dressage.
Mm-hmm. Primarily.
Okay. And is that the riding lessons you were
Yes.
giving her?
Yes.
Was dressage.
Right.
So, and that takes a lot of time.
Yes. Yeah,
A lot of
it takes
time.
a whole lot of time.
Because that's an upper level.
Yeah, you know
Horse
a lot
training.
more about dressage than most people do. Either that or you're really prepared for it.
No. just done a lot of I watch a lot of programs, and the horses are
Sure.
really collected, and
Right.
I mean they're very responsive. They're the trainer and the horse are one.
Right.
I mean, so it's boy, and it takes a long time to get there.
It does.
It does. So little things. What other small things did you have problems with?
I can't remember when it started, but I voluntarily would turn in, what I had done with the horses so they would know, so they would have a progress. And at some point, maybe you can help with the timeline, Alan and I started having some discrepancies over the time that I said I was working with the horses. And mind you, Alan was never down in the barn with me. It was always her.
Okay, so he didn't join in the training.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So what was the discrepancies that he?
Silly little things. Like at one time I had put down that I arrived at 9:02 or 9:06 or something like that. And he says, no, you arrived at 9:10. Like, okay. But just irrational about that. I was like, okay, Alan. Just that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you this. He evidently seemed questioning of the contract that you had.
Yeah, much later into this.
Was he suffering any illnesses or health?
Only what she had told me was that he was having some high blood pressure issues. He had injured his back, but I can't remember when. I was employed there, but I can't remember the
That
specifics.
was probably October. He had a pretty grievous back or flare up of some previous injury or something happened with his back.
Yeah, I can't remember
And
specifically.
he was on medications it was a couple weeks he was down, wasn't
If
it?
he was out and about when I was there, he was generally on the tractor, clearing land, preparing, for future development of the farm. So, but not really involved in the day-to-day training aspects or any of that. And she always got approval from him. He paid all the bills, though. I know when we had to order equipment, everything had to go through him. She didn't maintain, and she told me all this, she didn't maintain a checking account or credit cards or anything because of some sort of financial something that happened with her first marriage.
Okay.
And I can't remember the details and the specifics, but there was some huge big thing.
Between her and Alan referenced this?
Between her and her first husband. And Alan was aware of it, and Alan, she told me, had helped her or was helping her clear up all of the stuff, but there was no record of any, she couldn't have any record of any financial transactions because of whatever this bleed over was from her first marriage.
Okay. She say what happened in her first marriage?
She had been married to a commercial air pilot. She had told me that he was really, really abusive. And following the death of their daughter, within 6 months, he committed suicide.
Okay.
And I believe she told me they were separated or were starting the steps of being separated. They were maybe somewhat estranged.
Okay.
And I believe it was a gunshot to the head as well, if I remember correctly, her telling me.
Okay.
In Florida or Georgia, I can't remember.
Okay.
But they had lived in Florida and Georgia.
Did she say how her daughter died?
It's really funny. When she started taking lessons from me, Alan would come with her and watch. And she was riding, and he made reference to the daughter, and I didn't know that she had a daughter at that point and that the daughter had died. And I said, well, not to be nosy, Alan, but what happened? And he said, I don't know. I don't know how the daughter died. She and I have never talked about it. She doesn't want to discuss it, but that's how we got these 2 little dogs that are so obnoxious. And he was talking about putting up with the dogs, and he had to because they had been the daughters and the sentimental reasons. But I remember thinking then how strange it is that you'd be married to somebody and not know this life-altering traumatic event, what happened to the daughter. But then she told me on a trip that she and I went on, horse-related, we shared a hotel room, that the daughter had mysteriously or had an aneurysm in her sleep.
Okay.
At the daughter's fiance's house. But it was kind of bizarre. Miriam, she was often difficult to follow in her conversations. A little bit drifty. There were a lot of mistruths constantly.
Tell me about the mistruths.
Some simple things, basic simple things. She and I, sat down, would go through a equine supply catalog and talk about, you need to order this piece of equipment, this piece, and this piece. And at one point, there was this long, drawn-out 4-week scenario where the equipment didn't come. We were waiting, stagnant with the training of this one horse, waiting on this piece of equipment. And she would make up these elaborate stories how she had called the company, and the company, because they were in Whitewater, had gotten shipped to Wisconsin, and they were trying to track down the order, and they were going to just have it sent from Wisconsin. This went on for about 4 weeks. And, I would say things to her like, Miriam, I've been ordering from Dover Saddlery for 35 years, and I've never had this problem. And we lived in the Front Range at a place where we didn't have mail delivery. You had to go to the post office for your mail, but UPS delivered and FedEx delivered and DHL delivered. She just would have these elaborate excuses as to why this equipment wasn't here.
And with today's tracking, you can actually go online and see
and
where
I was
it's
reluctant
going.
to, get into an argumentative, presser situation. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if it was something between her and him. She had to get him to pay for stuff. So I thought in the beginning that was what the problem was, that, she was either afraid to approach him or he had told her they couldn't order it right. But why not just tell me that?
What was the dollar value on that large equipment order? Do you remember? Was it fairly large?
No.
Well,
No, it was less than $100. It
The
was a bridle.
the way that it culminated with those items and many other items was that Stephanie would end up ordering whatever it was and say, I've got, like the feeders and stuff like that, you go get them, wouldn't you?
Not for them.
Oh, okay.
No.
I thought they would just reimburse you for things that you ordered
The
at
only
that
time
point.
they had to reimburse me was when they were out of town and
Oh, okay,
we had that
Okay.
snowstorm.
okay. See,
No.
That's okay.
because I wasn't firsthand involved with that aspect of it, so I didn't.
I mean, sometimes if I was ordering a pair of breeches for something for me, I ordered it for her, so it's on the same order, but no.
All right.
But this particular thing, we were waiting for a bridle for this horse. It had absolutely nothing that would fit it, so it couldn't work the horse. And it was just really bizarre. And then there was another time that we ordered winter blankets for everybody, sheets and blankets. And they didn't come, and there was a problem with shipping according to her. And again, from the same company. And, I've been doing horses my whole life. And then when I had my horse down there, another incident of this lying thing was, it was in the fall when the weather was turning cold. And when I got down there, my horse didn't have his blanket on him.
Okay.
And I asked her about it, and she, oh yeah, I took it off this morning. Okay. My horse, you don't take his blanket off, it stays on. So then I asked Alan something about the horse's blankets and were they switched from light blankets to heavy blankets overnight. He said, no, I don't know, I don't think so. Everybody is how they are now. We haven't done anything to them. So I said, okay. And I didn't confront her with it. And a little bit later in the day, he came back to me and he said, I asked Miriam about blankets. And then the story changed. And I said, yeah, Alan, he and I both agreed there was a little untruth there on her part. And he said, sometimes she does that. And I said, yes, I've noticed that. And as long as it doesn't become an issue between you and I, that's fine. He said, well, I think it stems from the abusive marriage she got out of, her first marriage. You get in a habit of doing whatever you can to acquiesce to the situation to make it okay. And that's part of her nature now. And again, I said, as long as it doesn't come between you and I, that's fine. So there were lots of strange things looking back on it.
Why did you have your horse out there with her?
Convenience. I had both my horses out there. I was spending all day training. I'd do their horses and then my horse. Part of the long-term plan, again, Alan was subdividing his property into 3 lots. We actually had a lot of trouble with that. Everything, the grand plan was constantly changing. He was constantly telling us that he had had problems with the county regarding the survey. There was something that came up with the original developer, because they live in the original developer's house, which is actually not part of that subdivision, according to him.
Okay.
It's zoned outside of that subdivision. And so when they drew up the plans, and the original surveyor for the subdividing Alan was doing owns a house in that subdivision. And Alan and Miriam and I were out driving around one day in that subdivision, just kind of looking at their property from different angles. And Alan stopped to talk to a man on the side of the road. And the man owned some property that also is not in the subdivision, but is kind of behind it. And this man told Alan that the original surveyor had just had his license revoked from the county because of something to do with that subdivision. And then Alan found out during the course of trying to get all this subdivided that there was a problem with Excel and the utilities weren't on the deeded property. So that was misdone, and now
The easements were wrong, the easement going through for utilities was wrong, going through the property.
But there was,
And his easement for the road, his driveway, that long driveway, was whatever it was, 100 feet or 50 feet in the wrong direction or
but
something.
there was something about the utilities to the easement were not on the properly deeded property either. So it was this huge legal mess that he was going to have to get straightened out.
Did he say which attorneys he used for that?
No, he didn't.
He told me he had several attorneys in a later conversation,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
And
And the conversation that was ending your relationship, he had told me that he had several attorneys. That's all he said.
Now, you had made mention, I think, Stephanie, that you guys were thinking about buying some of the land out there.
buying and building.
Buying and building out there.
He had a business partner, this Armin, can't remember his last name, from Mondo Builders. They were partners in the Crystal Lee subdivision, and we had actually had our house plans that Brian and I, sketched on paper, were taken to the auto draft place, and then those plans, we all sat down in a meeting with Alan and Miriam and Armin to go over, the kind of house that we wanted and to kind of try to get some pricing. The pricing kept changing based on the plot of land and what was happening with all of this stuff with the county and the surveyor and all of that.
Price was going up or
Yes, up. When Armin took the house plans and then came back with this number, projected number for building the house. And according to Miriam and Alan, they were pretty ticked off at him about it because it came back much higher than they anticipated. And that's when Alan told us about this discrepancy that he had with Armand regarding the profits of these houses in Crystal Lee. And he was going to use that to leverage Armand to get a lower price on the building of our house. So, and he quoted a number of like $60,000. Right? The discrepancy between him and Armand on this one house was $60,000.
That's when
The Crystal Lee house
Okay.
thing.
that's when things started kind of going
Weird.
Yeah, we started kind of backing away from it because there was always
Well, and it was getting out of our price range.
It
We
went way
were
out of the
talking
price
$500,000 for a 3-acre property, and the acreage kept getting smaller and smaller as well. So it kind of like, we just can't do that.
he went when she was working. We were going through the phase of trying to get a contract that was okay, and we kept going back and forth. And the reason that
The employment contract.
the employment contract, we kept going back and forth with that. And one of the reasons was Alan was saying, if you're going to be the trainer out here and we're going to have a horse community and you want to live out here, then I need to get, we need to come to some agreement so that you know what you're being paid steadily and you can afford to buy whatever house we build or you want to build. Well, then the land went up in price from one visit to the next, and it got extensively smaller. And then we met with Armin, and Alan had said, he can build it. He'll probably build it for
$80 a square foot.
between 70 and 90 a square foot because He's not going to take, he goes, I'll eat what would be the profit for the builder. He said, I'll eat all that because we're having this discrepancy with him and he owes me this money anyway, so we'll get it through. So I said, okay. We met with Armin. Armin came back with a price that was twice the amount that was originally discussed.
We're talking about an 1,800 square foot house.
Yeah, we're not talking about a huge
It
house.
came back at over $500,000 just for the house. And it was kind of like, whoa, so out of our range, and you know it's out of our range.
Yeah, so
But anyway,
then he came back and he said, well, it's going to be whatever it was with all the.
And I can't price the land until we figure out what it's going to cost me to put in the road and bring the utilities
Right.
in. And I get this discrepancy with Excel, because Excel was going to make them put in a whole new transformer. Is that what that thing is called?
Right.
That big box. And that's when they found out that the current transformer is not where it should be.
The last conversation I had with him, I remember it because we were sitting on his deck. You were down giving Miriam a lesson. And he said, well, it doesn't sound like you can afford what we're talking about. And I said, no, we can't. I was like, the only thing that we can do to secure the property is to buy one of your lots. And then give us a window of 2 years or something like that to find a builder. And if it doesn't happen, and he said, well, I'll sell you the lot. And then if you don't do anything in 2 years, I'll buy it back from you for what it'd just be a wash. And I said, okay, so how do we do this? I don't have any money down. I don't have, we were just getting out of a house on the Front Range. And it was just, first of all, the lot was going to be $50,000 more because it was the quote unquote first lot we're selling. So we're going to have to pay for all the improvements to put the road in up there. And we're going to have to pay for the moving of it just became a mess.
This is off topic.
Yeah, and then I just said, I don't think this is going to work at all, Alan. I don't see it.
And especially not if our paying for it is totally dependent on him guaranteeing that he had enough horses for me to train, that it would be a wash, basically. That what he would be paying me would take care of this property.
Because at this time he was going through you're not out here enough hours, you didn't do this with the horses.
Yeah, and this all came up at the same time.
This is all happening at the same time. It's kind of falling apart.
All of a sudden, I've got, he's trying to, insisting that I be there this specific time, and this is how this works, and,
How many horses are you training?
At the time, they had 3 sales horses in training.
Okay.
And then Miriam's horse, we considered our 4th horse.
Okay.
So I was guaranteed no less than $2,000 a month or $500 per horse in full training. And like I said, Miriam and her horse were considered a full training horse, even though the majority of what I was doing with her was only instruction.
Okay.
So that's how that worked, and I was there 5 days a week. And then, all of a sudden, pretty much out of the blue, he steps in and starts being more involved and wants to know about the hours that I'm there and the time and the time I've spent with each horse. And all along, I've been providing, just kind of a log so you know about the progress of your horse.
Like a time card? And
But not a time,
documentation?
and I was a 1099 employee.
Sure.
And it was really weird. At the end, after I resigned, we had Brian and Alan had some words about filing taxes because he didn't provide me my 1099 until March 18th or 23rd or something like that. And
It was well into March when we got a 1099.
And then, and there was a little bit of conflict there because here he's 1099ing me, and what caused the end of our relationship was this just irrational behavior about my hours and what I was doing and where I was. And, Miriam would try to actually step in and defend what I was doing, and he just shut her down. It was really, really bizarre and really, really irrational. And what precipitated all of this was I showed up to work one morning and he blew me out of the water. And he had always just been this gentleman, treated me with the utmost respect and, treated me, as a paid consultant, and I would give him right advice and he would either follow it or not. And this particular morning, cussed me up one side and down the other, and this was his effing barn, and nobody was going to effing tell him how to effing run it. And what started was I walked in, and all the horses were turned out as they should have been, except for 2. And I was just kind of lightly chatting with Miriam regarding the log of hours I had submitted previous, and she said, "Oh, Alan has some questions about it." I said, "Fine, no problem." He walks into the barn and interrupts us and says, "Are these horses going out?" And Miriam answered him and said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'm going to put them in the front field." And I said, "Alan, you can't put them in the front field." That's when he just blew up. "You can't effing tell me what to do. Blah, 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 blah. This is my effing farm. These are my GD horses. I'm going to do whatever the F I want." And I looked at him and said, "Alan, all I was going to say is the construction crew just took the fence down because they're getting ready to trench out there. So there's no way, the horses won't be contained." "I'm an effing engineer. You don't think I can take my GD hands and fix a effing fence?" I'm just like, okay. Just so uncharacteristic. It continued to blow me out, up one side and down the other.
Was he focused on his anger towards you
Yeah.
or to Miriam?
To me.
Just to you?
To me, she left. She walked out of the barn and left me standing there with him chewing me up one side and down the other.
Is that when you decided to turn in your resignation?
Well, I pretty much ceased my contact with him. This was... When was this?
It was about a week before Christmas, wasn't it?
It was the Tuesday before Christmas, because we were leaving the next day to go to Denver.
Right.
And what had happened was there was a week they were home, and then the week before that they were out of town. Or wait a minute. I can't remember. I have to look at all the emails and the notes. They had gone out of town. And on my recommendation, I was also out of town. They had a woman come in and take care of the farm.
Do you know who that was?
Yes, I do. Her name is Valerie. And there were several problems when they went out of town. Problems, easily taking care of the horses. Fence went down, they didn't have water froze, that kind of thing. It was kind of a hassle back and forth. And, Alan, I think in his arrogance and his ego, he got his feelings hurt because Valerie gave him the what. She's a professional and this is what she does for a career. And, this needs to be done and that needs to be done and blah, blah, blah. And so he was still kind of smarting about that, I think, when he came back into town. And that was what I think led him to blow me out. Was, executive decisions had to be kind of made in order to take care of these horses while they were gone, and I think he was pissed off about it.
Let me ask you this. What type of investment do they have in those horses?
Well, they made a purchase of, I'm not sure the exact amount, but they purchased a young horse, a mare in foal, and a breeding, all from the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they paid around $26,000.
Okay.
And then this other horse, what did they pay for Vegas? Do you remember, like $2,800?
20, yeah, something like that.
And then they had purchased another horse prior to me. I didn't recommend the horses I just told you that I all consulted with and recommended the purchase of. This other horse they purchased for $4,500. The one horse I found her for free. And then they had Raja and Chessie. They had 2 or 3. I can't remember if Johnny left right about the time I started going down there. They had 3 horses before.
No, that wasn't hers.
Who?
Was it John Wayne? What was the one that they bought and sold just as we started coming into
Johnny.
Johnny.
So they had 3 horses, well, 4 horses when I started.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he had put in an arena, and I believe he told me he paid $15,000 for the arena. Again, after talking to me, and telling him what he needed to look for, kind of. And the barn was already there. They started putting in more paddocks, and he bought a tractor. I can't even remember And everything was in stages. We had a plan. I gave him budgeted projections for 2008. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
I'm looking at totality-wise, the relationship between Miriam and Alan. Good, bad, indifferent,
I
based
don't
on
know.
what you saw.
I know that the first time Valerie came out, Valerie's a equine physical therapist as
Okay.
well. She came out to work on one of the horses. And Miriam was down there in the barn with us. And Valerie, just small talk, kind of talking about the fact that Valerie was single and she was having, good men were hard to find kind of thing. And Miriam says, yes, I know. Alan was the only man in the area that had a portfolio that would satisfy me, that I would date.
You heard her say that to
Gee, Valerie.
Alan was the only man.
That had a large enough portfolio. And it was clear she meant financial portfolio. Her son told Brian directly that Miriam had told the son she married Alan for his money.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Miriam's son, Chris.
Chris. Okay.
This is what he said. I took Chris fishing. He came out from Florida.
About this time last year.
Yep. And we went up and fished and hung out and stuff. And he was saying, hey, Alan seems like a nice enough guy. I didn't know what their relationship was at all. And he goes, yeah, Mom told me she was going to marry for money, and I guess she did, huh?
I don't know. Miriam was very aloof. A lot of times, I've never known anybody on lithium, but I used to tell Brian, it's like dealing with somebody on lithium. Sometimes she was there and sometimes she wasn't. During her instruction, sometimes she was paying attention. We had other times it was like talking to the wall. It's like she never heard me. I never, ever heard a word. Nothing registered. I know they were both heavy drinkers.
I was going to ask you about
I know
intoxication.
He was a pretty significant gambler. I know that she liked to not flaunt, but flaunt, the money. I know that she did not like Armand, that they were having house plans drawn up by Armand, and Armand told Alan he needed to get control of his wife. She told me this. She also told me that the bank that Alan dealt with primarily told Alan he needed to get control of his wife. So she would drop these weird little conversations, sometimes like I was her best friend.
And confidant.
Yeah. And now in hindsight, at the time I didn't think much of it, and in hindsight now it's kind of like, well, that was weird. That was weird to say. When we went out of town, we went to Eagle for a dressage clinic. And we took initially my horse. She and I shared a hotel room. Alan didn't go. I forget why. He had a conflict. He couldn't go. And she told me stories of, being young and partying on the town and how to pick up men and how she would get things from men. And after her husband died, how she, would be out catting about. It was kind of a weird conversation, like too much information. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Heavy drinker.
Heavy? How heavy?
8 shots of tequila one night.
You guys partied?
No, this was at dinner at the clinic with people that were organizing the clinic.
8 shots of tequila?
And she seemed minimally affected, except that she got talky. They were both smokers.
Okay.
They would talk about, when they got down to about the drinking, they would always say something about we've been up at the house having Baileys and coffee. In the mornings, it was rare to see them out of the house by 9:30 or 10 in the morning. We would go down to feed.
I've got to tell you, this has really been bothering me.
I just see what you just saw
The
here.
news reports say the wife left the house at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to work. She doesn't work. She never got out of the house at 8 o'clock in the morning.
When we knew her.
Yes. Even those horses were rarely fed and ready to work when I got there.
So they weren't up at 6 a.m. doing chores?
He was.
He was.
He hardly ever slept. She wasn't. She has that dance studio,
Okay.
but she never goes there. She doesn't even return phone calls to my good friend. I put in contact with Miriam because she's a professional dancer in the Ukraine, and her name is Luda Miller.
Okay.
And
Do you have Luda's
I do.
number?
And her cell is.
Okay.
And Luda's had minimal contact with her. As of last night, the new manager of the dance studio,
Which is Alan?
who is, there was some discrepancy Miriam had with this other gal that owns a dance studio. And there's a legal thing, there's a restraining order Miriam has on this other gal. This guy was an instructor there. Anyway, they recently brought him, Miriam and Alan recently brought this Alan guy to manage the dance studio. And I know from talking to Luda last night that Alan had called Luda and there was some concern over getting paid. He had seen invoices from the landlord for the dance studio that hadn't been paid in 3 months. They hadn't been paid for May. I know that when I resigned as their trainer, they sent the horses down to friends of mine that are trainers in the Front Range, and checks to vets, chiropractors, boarding stables, and trainers bounced. She then wrote checks from the dance studio that bounced. Like I said, she doesn't work. And Tuesday is the day they used to take and go do all of the business dealings in Delta and do his grandkids and that kind of thing. Now I had heard the training horses recently shipped back to their farm from being at the trainers in Denver. And there was a local trainer that was supposed to be going out there 3 days a week. Now in the horse business, I mean, you would assume it would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that somebody would be coming. So it's just very odd that whatever happened on Tuesday, and that she was out of the house by 8. They never went anywhere alone. She wouldn't even go to the store for a loaf of bread without him. I remember that being really weird. Because there were times that the weather was inclement and it is common for people to haul horses to the fairgrounds to work them.
Sure.
And I won't haul their horses without one of them present. Well, first of all, there's 2 of them they can't haul because they're too big for their own trailer, so we would have had to use my equipment. I'm not taking their horses and my equipment without an owner present. And she wouldn't be able to come because he had something he had to do, but she had to go with him, or vice versa. They were always weirdly together, and like I said, the loaf of bread thing is a very specific example.
So if they were going to do errands or chores or
Together.
anything, always together.
Yep.
Okay.
It was very bizarre, but they were initially during the moment of all of this, I mean, they were kind of your typical wealthier, eccentric people is how I viewed them.
Okay.
People with money sometimes are eccentric, and people that are heavily involved with horses usually have money. And so that's not, it's not uncommon. I know that he's estranged from his son.
Okay.
She told me they didn't even invite him to the wedding. There was some estrangement when I first started working with them. His daughter Wendy lived there on the property.
Okay.
And there was some estrangement there, and they asked her to leave. Miriam told me that neither Wendy nor Portia were terribly supportive of their dad's decision to marry her, but the daughter in Washington or someplace, Christine, was supportive, and Miriam just adored her. I know that Miriam had talked Alan into going to Lake Tahoe for Christmas instead of spending it with the family, and there was some, bad feelings about that. All kinds of, I really was privy to all kinds of weird little comments, and he was very forthcoming about bad business dealings and
Yeah, he
people
was.
being
He
angry
was.
at him.
And so was she, but what struck me with a lot of the things that she would say is I never knew whether I could trust anything that she was saying to me.
Me too.
You didn't know when she was talking to you and telling you a story whether or not it was a true story or something that maybe had some truth in it, or maybe something that was kind of out in left field somewhere.
So if
Because when I would talk to Alan, and I can't think of any specifics, but when I would talk to Alan, I'd say, yeah, so-and-so, and Miriam was telling me about blah, 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 and he'd go, what? He would just kind of, and just continue on what he was doing. He would never expound upon those things or whatever.
So if I said you questioned her credibility and maybe they were truths and half-truths, would that be pretty accurate?
Extremely accurate.
Because we always look at, people can give us their rendition of the truth, which is not really the truth. Does that make sense?
Well, it is to them, maybe.
It is to them, but it's their story and they're sticking to
Right.
it.
You know, she told me things about her life and her past, and I remember thinking, she would give me these almost encapsulated versions. It's like she had this life, and all these things happen, and she'd tell me, details about it. And then it's like she totally left that life behind, and now she has this life. And this is what she's doing. And she's really 110% into this right now. And then she left all that behind. And now she's into this horse thing.
And then moved on to another.
So I don't know. It was just, and people are like that. People have, different lives, but I don't know. It was really kind of bizarre. The one thing also I feel that it might be important to tell you is she was telling me about the saga, kind of the timeline of her and Alan, and how she had met him, and how Alan's first wife had died. And I know she told me Alan's wife died of breast cancer, and it was a very long and painful death, and he was very saintly and by her side. And, that was maybe part of the reason it was okay that he married her so quickly, because he had known for so many years the end was coming, and that was common with widowers and blah, blah, blah. Well, then come to find out, his first wife did not die of breast cancer. She had an aneurysm in her sleep. Like the daughter.
And that's...
Like the story I got about the daughter, is what I guess I should say. But looking back on it, you start putting things together, and I don't want to sound melodramatic or conspiracy theorist or anything else, but she was constantly telling me how she was playing Alan to get what she wanted, which was kind of said laughingly and jokingly, because she really wanted to do this horse thing, and he just doesn't understand, and I have to break him into it slowly, and, that kind of thing, which I kind of understand about horse husbands. It's kind of a joke within horses, that horses are a lifestyle, and if you're not used to the lifestyle, it's, kind of difficult sometimes. But, she would allude to, these little soft manipulations that she had all the time. Again, he did control all the money.
And did she ever talk about a prenup or any type of agreement between?
Oh, yeah, she did, and I can't remember the specifics, but I do remember her talking about a prenup. And it was because it was all during the same conversation about what the mess Jack had left her in. And she lost her house, and, she had all these problems with creditors and was, in essence, hiding out. Was there a prenup? She wanted one and he didn't, or
I thought that
the kids wanted one. I can't remember.
The only thing she mentioned a prenup when she was talking about having Alan write all the checks. That was part of their agreement.
And with this last tax thing too, she had to go sign a bunch of paperwork, and she said, I didn't want to. I don't want to be on any of that. I don't want to. It was about the real estate deal, the building they were selling, closing that $1 million building or whatever, and then something about taxes, and she didn't want to be on any of the paperwork because of her history, and she didn't want to bring him down. And I remember her telling me that I didn't really understand the details of it. And he had insisted that she sign off on this stuff as well.
He insisted in front of
No,
you,
no.
or this was
This is
Miriam's
what she
she
told
said.
me.
condition? Okay.
So, I'm sure there's so much more that will come as we continue to talk. At least-
You haven't had contact with Alan
No.
since you got blown out in the,
When I got blown out, we left for the weekend, or for Christmas, came back into town. We had a meeting on that Monday, the 30th or the 31st, or
right.
whatever it was, to try to resolve things.
that's right.
And he was just as irrational and nasty, and that's when he, she was, I actually put the screws to her that time and, tried to make her be accountable for some things that she had wanted me to do, like overestimating time and money and that kind of stuff.
In the presence of Alan?
Yes.
Okay, so you were confronting her
Yes.
about this whole
Yes.
thing that's been going
Yes.
on. Okay.
And she did agree, and she did back up what I was saying, and he got even more irate. He shut her down every time she tried to say something. This was after she didn't really want to be in the meeting to start off with, and he insisted she be present. So then she's quiet through the whole meeting, and when she does go to say something, he was nasty with her and shut her down repeatedly. He was nasty with me, and I just kept saying, Alan, we're not resolving anything. This is getting nowhere. I can't.
Where was that meeting held?
At their home, at their dining room table. And I went home that, after concluding the meeting, I had to pick up my son for a doctor's appointment. And it was like a 3-hour meeting. And I typed my resignation letter and emailed it. I called her to tell her I was getting ready to email it out of courtesy. And I sent it and I said, per the agreement, I'm giving you my 30 days notice. And she told me, she said, he's irrational. She said, I would have been gone after the first contract revision, is what she told me. She said, I wouldn't have put up with what you've put up with this far. And, she seemed all supportive of my decision and my choices and understanding. And I still want to work with you as my instructor if you're open to that. And I said, that's fine, but And this was not an exclusive contract, by the way. I was still free to give lessons and train horses outside of their business.
Did you continue contact with Miriam?
I tried to, because I tried to satisfy the 30 days notice, because he paid me ahead of time.
Okay.
And they were very, very unaccommodating. I mean, the weather was bad in January, and so I called every day. Can you haul your horses out so we can work them? What's your plan? And there was always some reason that they couldn't do things. So he actually never did let me satisfy those 30 days, and he demanded repayment of money that had been paid, and there was a discrepancy about hours that had been worked to satisfy that, where I had satisfied the hours and he insisted that I had not. And it got kind of ugly. And I still have copies of a volley of emails that went back and forth.
Yeah.
And finally I said, I can't deal with him, Brian. You've got to step in. This man's totally irrational. I can't communicate with him. I can't follow. I mean, he was like a completely different person from what I had seen before. Completely different.
There was lots of cursing and
I was scared of him, actually.
And she didn't feel safe going out there with him because he was being irrational. And so that's when I did not go out there. I started responding to his emails that were directed toward her. Some of them I responded for her. She would read them and say, that's fine. Because she was not, she was so involved with the horses and they were going in a different direction, and then we had this personality that was being very ugly, just nasty to people. He was being a bully is what he was just. And so I started trying to negotiate with him to get resolved this time and money situation.
And what happened, I gave him that 30 days notice. On January 30th, I called Miriam. I said, it's been 30 days, Miriam. And I sent an email and I said, I consider this matter closed. Didn't hear anything for another 2 months. And then all of a sudden I get the 1099 and a demanding of payment of $900 and something for a contract not satisfied.
Right, that was in March, yeah. It was about 30 days.
And that's when Brian got involved. I said, I'm not going there. I'm not discussing this with him. We talked to my attorney in Denver. Brian wanted it over and done, so he did finally write a check to Alan, and Alan said he still wasn't satisfied.
We wrote him a letter and said, this matter's done. You haven't allowed or made accommodations for Stephanie to work off this 30 days. You know, that's your fault. We're not paying you for that. And by the way, your 1099 is reflecting in...
Yeah, it wasn't accurate either.
It was a huge amount of money on there that hadn't been paid. According to our records, he was saying that he had paid us $4,000 more than what he actually had her. $4,000 more. And so I said, you know, according to that, we're filling out the tax forms according to what we have in our records, and your 1099 is inaccurate. This matter's closed. We're not...
He hit the roof.
He went completely crazy, and, you know, he wrote another letter back and said, if you don't
file what I said is on
or
the
address this
1099.
matter or something like that, you guys have probably run across a hard copy of it out there, then I will come after you with all my legal resources, and they'll be...
You must file what I put, he said, you must file what I have on the 1099.
So we got that
my
letter.
My accountant's dealing with that dude.
So I got that letter, and I said, this is not right. So I called him at Stephanie's request. I called him up, and I kept having to say, Alan, I'm trying to figure out how to get this off the table. Is it the money? It's not the money. I'm willing to pay $50,000 or $60,000 to my lawyers, and I've got a whole team of lawyers to prove that I'm right and you're wrong and your wife is blah, blah. And he was out of control on the phone. It became 2 or 3 phone conversations that were very heated.
Pissing contest is the only word I can come up with.
And I guess maybe an outsider looking in, he's discrediting you for overcharging on your hours, and yet he's saying that and then on the 1099, he's saying he paid you more.
Well, that's...
And then he wanted...
And that's what he said. And then he said he wanted your $4,000 back.
If the 1099 is wrong, then obviously he paid $4,000 too much, and we needed to pay him $4,000.
Because my numbers are right. My accountants are right. And I was born and raised in this area, and I know everybody, and I've had the same accountant.
And attorneys. That's when he told you about all his attorneys.
Yeah. And you're screwing with the wrong person. And then he'd hang up, so I call him back.
But just irrational.
And it was a full day of conversations, and what I finally came to with him was a letter, and it said, enclosed as a check for $857.14. I think it was something like that.
$57 or $47, I don't know.
When you sign this check, the matter is over. Don't contact us anymore about it. I don't want to hear anymore. You know, basically, when you sign this, this is payment for the time that you claim that Stephanie owes you, and this matter is closed.
It said that I did not agree, but here's payment.
Right.
You know, we just want it done.
And I put in there, well, I'll make sure my tax forms reflect the 1099.
No.
Well, they did. No, it's in the letter. I will make sure the tax forms reflect the 1099. They did, except we subtracted all of the accountant subtracted out from the 1099 all of the reimbursement. He had all of the reimbursement money in the 1099. So things like feeders and bridges and stuff like that.
Okay.
Was that how that worked? I can't remember.
Yes, and that's exactly.
I'm not a good financial money person.
It came out to the exact amount that he said that he overpaid us. And I said, yeah, but your reimbursement money. No, it's not. And he was just going off. So anyway, that was the last contact I had with him. We sent him the check, and then it took him a month to cash the check.
Yeah, because they weren't set up. They didn't have a checking account
He's-
set up. We made the check to Creek Ranch Sport Horses, and they couldn't deposit the check because they didn't have a checking account set up as Creek Ranch Sport Horses. Because Brian especially, was flipping out that it wasn't done. He wasn't cashing the check because the last thing he said was he still wasn't satisfied.
Yeah, he said, this has got to be satisfied to my satisfaction, not yours. And in the middle of all those conversations, he also said, I didn't send you the first letter, the one I had where I was going to send the mob up there to take you guys out at the
Your
knees.
son, he mentioned our
Yeah.
son specifically, that he was.
I've got a 2-year-old son, and I was like, Alan, you're being a bully. You can't threaten me like that. He goes, those are not threats, those are promises. And I said, Alan, I want this resolved. So that's when I agreed to pay him the money.
But evidently, yeah, I mean, he was quite volatile, so.
Based on what I'm hearing from you, was there any interaction with Mondo's construction that you witnessed that was as volatile as what you guys went
No.
through?
No, just what he's told us.
Just
What
told
he's
you.
told us was that there was a discrepancy based on that Crystal Lee of about $50,000. 50 to, I don't know what it was, 50 or 60, whatever
A
it
lot of
was.
money.
It was a lot of money for anybody, I would think. And he was,
Well, and it was a discrepancy of several transactions, on each transaction of each house.
Mhm.
Was the
right, it was like a
discrepancy
few $1,000s on each one. And
that he
Alan-
said Armin had pocketed.
right, and Alan said, well, my attorneys or accountants have got it this way, and Armin's got this much more money, and this isn't gonna work, and so I'm using that money to discount what we're doing with your house. And that's kind of when we started stepping back and we were like, this is getting really
Weird.
odd with these guys, because I don't know Armin.
Mhm.
I don't know, and I don't wanna know their business transaction.
And we didn't have to use Armin as a builder. We were just starting there because Alan assured us that we would get the best price, obviously at the $80 a square foot. You know, and Alan could eat profit on his side because I was, it was a benefit to him to have me there for his horse business. One thing I continually did with Alan though was, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. Well, I need to get more horses in here because I'm guaranteeing you $500 a horse. So if I have enough horses to guarantee you $3,500 a month, which is the mortgage payment on, then, and I said, Alan, you need to slow down. It doesn't work like that all the time. You have a horse that goes lame, you have this, then your profit margins just, this is good. Get through the winter with what we have, what's working right now. Well, I need more horses. You let me worry about that. Okay.
Let me ask you this, based on what you know from Miriam and the umbrella of things that were going on, do you think that it was because you backed off from the property, or do you think Miriam was kind of in there manipulating which way Alan was going and what he was feeling, or do you?
I think so very
I
much.
mean-
She kept telling me, don't worry, we're going to make it so you can afford it. It doesn't matter what any of these numbers are. Don't worry, I'm making it. I think she's dumb like a fox. I don't trust her. I think that she is the direct cause of why Alan got so upset with me. I think it was her maybe not being so truthful with him about things. It started off, and this was her baby. The horses, she was the manager. Yeah, he was the money behind it, but it was her baby. And then all of a sudden he steps in full force and hit the fan, and I just don't think she was truthful. And I think that she directly, threw me under the bus.
I would say that the story that she was telling Alan that was going on with
Was
the
not
horses was not what was going on, and it was causing Alan to see discrepancies between what he was seeing and what he was hearing.
And what I was giving him on paper.
It
because
seemed to me that it was
He told
just
me everything needed to come by him first at one point. He said, you deal with me. I said, hey, this is the first time I've heard this. I've been dealing with your wife for 4 months, I'm more than happy to do it. I write the checks. Okay, I'm more than happy to give you everything. But
You started in March of 2007.
Yeah.
Were the checks written from a personal account to you? Or,
yes,
because you said that,
yeah, I
Was
think
Alan-
it had Ellen, did it have her name on the check?
Yes,
Yeah,
I think so.
I think it did. I think it had both of their names on the checks.
and you said in March or April of 2008, you wrote it to Creek Ranch.
Right,
Horses.
that's how they were
Sport horses.
referring to
Yeah.
themselves in all of the emails and everything, so
Yeah,
that's
their
why I
email
wrote the check
address,
to
they
them.
were setting up a website. We had listed a couple horses for sale on web sales sites, and it was Creek Ranch Sport Horses, and they were starting to brand the business. So I just, I actually never really paid attention to the.
And I wrote that check to them.
Okay.
And I wrote it specifically to Creek Ranch Sport Horses because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't,
And,
he
and
knew it
in the
wasn't.
contract, he refers to the contract being between Creek Ranch Sport Horses and myself.
Right,
Okay.
and so I did that to try to satisfy what was going on with
Just
them, so.
It just really got weird fast.
Do you think anybody at Mondo's hurt Alan?
I don't know.
Was
I
he-
don't know him well enough, and I believe it. Armand, from what Alan told me, Armand's a doctor. He's a physician,
Mhm.
and he likes building better than he likes practicing medicine. And he works with his son, and it's
I only met him once and
I don't know.
he was fine, he
I
was
have to
mad
say my
because
first
of what we were doing, but
my first thought was when I heard was that if Alan was the way he was with me over this tiny, I'm a tiny little piece of hobby business, and he's a huge developer and has all these real estate deals going on and all of this. If he treated somebody in the business world the way he had treated me, that, I can see somebody being mad at him. Whether or not it's Armin, I also think she's dumb like a fox too, so I don't know. I heard through the grapevine yesterday, that they had a vehicle set on fire a couple weeks ago.
Where'd you hear that from?
I heard that from my friend Luda,
Okay.
who heard that from Penny.
Okay.
And I know Penny a little bit. I know Penny because she is the receptionist at the chiropractor that they go to, and I've been to the chiropractor based on their recommendation a couple times. But then Penny is also the sister of another local horsewoman that they brought. Miriam brought this Kim Giannone out to watch me ride one time, and so I met this Kim, and I met Kim. Both Kim and Penny are clients of Miriam's dance studio.
And tell me,
Have you talked with Katie? No, her real name is Kirsten. What's her last name?
I don't know who.
Katie, that babysat Connor. I put this Katie in contact with Miriam and Alan as somebody that could be a caretaker for the farm when we were out of town at horse shows or clinics together. And Katie knew what had happened between Alan and I, and that I had resigned, and she was still going down to take care of the horses when they were out of town. In fact, she was there just a couple of weeks ago because one of the horses had her foal, and Katie was taking care of the barn and didn't know what to do. So Katie is,
She works at Murdoch.
and she's a student at Mesa State and works at Murdoch's, and
Oh, nice. She's in the 4-H. And,
I know Katie.
do you?
okay, well, Katie was caretaking for them here and there. So she might know more, but the car thing I heard from Luda, who heard from Penny. And, Penny and Luda were going back and forth, I guess, yesterday because nobody had heard from Miriam. Nobody can get a hold of Miriam since this happened, and Alan and Luda are trying to figure out what to do with the dance studio. Whether to open, whether to keep lessons going, what's going on.
Okay.
And again, I know all the people on the Front Range that checks bounced to. I know the farrier had an extremely heated discussion, he told me directly, with Miriam about not getting paid for services. Just kind of a bad scene, I guess, all the way around. I had heard through the grapevine that they were having financial trouble. A long time ago, actually. So,
I think in totality wise, both of you had a lot to share.
Do you?
Mhm.
I know there's probably more isolated crap in there. I don't want to think. I think it's scary. I think whether somebody offed him over a bad business deal, it's very scary.
It's freaking us out.
It
We
is.
haven't
I
been
remember
sleeping and we've been completely freaked out
Who's
because
taking care of the horses? Do you know? Is somebody taking care of them? They've got a horse that's going to have another baby here.
That's correct, and we are conducting our forensic collection up there, and we've made sure that the
The
horses
horses are okay.
okay,
yeah, they're all taken care of.
okay,
So
good.
I know that, in our worlds we make them pets.
And the
and
dogs are okay.
Yeah, I mean everything's
Okay.
being taken care of. So
And if it's Miriam, that's scary too, because I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. She spoke out about especially once things started blowing up. She spoke out of both sides of her mouth, and not just to me. Like I said, the people on the Front Range that all the horses went to are people that I set them up with in the first place. And Miriam acted like she had no clue how small the horse world is, and the fact that all the horse people talk.
mhm.
She acted like she was this isolated entity. It was just really, really, really odd. I just can't even tell you.
Could I ask you, Stephanie, to make up that list of who you set her up with over on the Front Range?
Sure.
And my email address is on there. Can you just
Sure.
email that to me?
I also, when I gave them my 30 days notice, before, somewhere in there, I also typed them up an extensive list of other trainers and people that Alan could consult with to see that, there's an industry standard for a reason.
Mhm.
To think that you're going to come into the horse industry with this whole new way of conducting business is a little bit ignorant and arrogant at the same time. So I gave him all of these people to consult with. I'm a successful businessman, and I don't need any of
We're all doomed to fail if we follow industry standards.
Okay.
I can remember him saying that if I followed industry standards, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Okay. I don't know what that means. That's the only thing I know to follow. I'm not a business person, Alan. I'm just saying this is the way that it's normally done. I don't care how it's normally done. Okay.
Do you guys, did you know about his son?
Alan's son?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Alan
Jr.
Yeah, Miriam told me, but I can't remember now what caused the estrangement. And I can't remember. It's just, I've tried to put them behind me, and it's like they keep coming back into.
March 24th, I think the letter is dated March 24th where I wrote him that check. And I swear to you, a week or two hasn't gone by where I haven't thought that's a week or two further apart from dealing with
I'm
that
just glad that we were
craziness that was going on.
down there.
And since then they've been through two trainers.
3 or 4. I think they're on their 4th trainer since
Fourth,
January.
they were on their 4th trainer, horse trainer.
Have you
because
talked
this
with
person-
her up here, the new trainer?
Sue?
Sue
Yes.
Fuller. Okay.
And I don't know. Every time they would switch trainers, I would feel bad for the horses and for what was going on and for their ability to make money. But at the same time, I thought that's one more person between where we dropped off and where they are
And
now.
I do have the
Because-
body of emails.
Okay.
They're on
And
my
I've got all
computer.
those, they're all,
Yeah,
Um,
and that's always good business if you keep those for your.
I just didn't trust him. He was
Well,
so irrational.
and he kept telling, even up to our last conversation, my last conversation, not ours, my last conversation with him, this is not satisfied. This is not over until I am satisfied. And I still reserve the right to bring legal action against you and Stephanie for losses, business losses, and something else.
Loss of value for the
Loss of
horses
value
because
for the
of delay in
horses.
training.
Yeah, so I've got $20,000 or $30,000 worth of legal action I could pull against you, and I'm willing to do it just to prove I'm right. And he was
The
kind
last
of
time I saw
that
Alan,
kind of deal, and so I was so glad when he deposited that check, and I was like, we're done, it's over. Just
when the last time I saw Alan was at the horse show in February up at the fairgrounds. And one of the people, my friend Jerry, is who they bought the 3-horse package deal from. Jerry's a breeder in the front range. This is where the horses just came back from. Jerry was up here judging the horse show. And I was her scribe in the judge's booth, and Miriam and Alan came to this horse show, peeked around the corner and said, hello. And, I didn't say anything. Jerry was still trying to be really friendly with them, and I just was trying to be polite but not interrupt. And Alan said, we're still drunk from last night. We've been out partying, celebrating.
Something, they got a room in town because
their
they were
anniversary of meeting or something like that. And didn't say anything. And it's in the middle of the show, so the show goes on. We have a break, and I go into the horse show office, and I'm in with several people. Oh, and Alan asked me before this, when I'm sitting in the judge's stand, he says, what kind of horse is that? Getting ready to go into the arena. And I said, I believe it's a Morgan. And that's all I said. So then we have a break. I go into the horse show office. Miriam comes in, and she's talking to me. I mean, kind of trapped in there, and I'm trying to be polite. And I'm sorry about all this, and I still want to take lessons with you, and we're just trying to, I forget, I think she said liquidate at this point or regroup or something. And I said, yeah, I'd heard the horses got shipped down, to the front range, and 2 of them were hurt, and I hope everything was okay. And Alan came in then, stood there for, 10 or 15 seconds. I don't think he said anything to me. I didn't say anything to him, and he left. But then he told, was it you? He told somebody that I was accosting his wife at the horse show, in that show office. And there were packed with people in that office. And people that had known, a couple of them had known what had gone on between he and I. So there were lots of people looking, to see what the dynamic was between her and I. And I just tried to maintain very neutral, professional countenance. But he espoused this, I was being abusive to you, he said it, abusive to his family and accosting his wife at that horse show.
Yeah, I'd ask, what's the definition of accosting when you've got witnesses standing there,
But it just, like I said, irrational, totally
And
irrational.
he brought that up to me on the phone. He said, your wife accosted Miriam and was begging her to take us back as clients. And I said, I don't think that's what was said. You weren't there. You don't know. And I said, well, Alan, I think you left. You weren't there either. Well, I was there long enough. I couldn't stand to be in the same room with that woman. And just going off. And I was like, well, there was lots of people there, and they've all said the same thing, that Stephanie was sitting in there doing paperwork, and your wife came in to accost her, basically, to confront her. So he goes, well, whatever. He goes, it's just a situation where everyone's interpreting the events to their own good. And I said, oh, well, that's fine. How do we come to the end of this? Can I pay you a check? What can we do? So, our conversations were, not great going into that, but it was March 24th. The check was written and it was done, and I was done with him. And Miriam. I just didn't have any desire to see him or anything.
I don't know. I do find it really odd about the conflicting story about his wife's death from Miriam. Why even bother telling me that? Except to validate or justify the swiftness of your marriage? I don't know. And she told me that Wendy was still having a hard time with the fact that Alan and Miriam had married so quickly. And there was just, like I said, moments of real confidant conversation where, please don't tell me. I don't like to get this close to my clients, so, please don't tell me. And just little things that she would say here and there.
How did you meet Luda Miller?
Oh, we were in childbirth class together. Her son was born 4 days after mine, and we've remained, close since. And then when Miriam was telling me she was looking for an instructor or had been interviewing instructors, Luda had been an instructor and a professional dancer in her country. So I just put them together, and she's been working. I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if she actually gets, I really don't know if she's just kind of a contract person and the private lesson people pay her, or if she's an actual employee.
Okay. And that was the only question I had. How'd you get friends
that's
that
how-
way? Okay.
Yeah, childbirth class. And
That was somebody that we brought in.
We
We brought in. We knew her previous to, and we brought her
Brought
in.
her into the circle
Right,
of the
right.
Helmics.
Yeah, that most of the,
They've got a very extensive circle.
they do now.
It seems. I mean, I didn't
Horse
realize it
circle.
except for the fact that they did just start telling us all these personal business dealings and stuff like that soon after we started going down there and working for them, and it was
They
kind of.
always had a drink. I mean, he always had a drink in his hand when he was telling you this stuff.
I know.
So
And there was a lot of drinking. Whenever we went down there, it was, you want something to drink? No. Well, I'm having one. It was
What did he drink?
Crown Royal or
Bailey's and coffee.
Bailey's and coffee.
And Miriam drank?
Tequila with a tomato juice shooter on the side. Because it takes care of any potential hangover. Repeatedly, she told everybody that.
That's what she would say all the time. I think she just picked the grossest thing just so that people would go, wow, you're drinking that. Well, I mean, it was, it was just kind of, anyway.
She did like to play the I have money but I'm down to earth kind of game. That was,
That
Jimmy
game
there.
of Alan has the money and he takes care of me and that's all I care about?
That kind of, yeah, kind of, but I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It's
The whole
just-
thing's kind of freaked us out completely because we were down there every day for,
Let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if the investigation is focusing on her. So, I don't know.
we were down there every day for 3 or 4 months. We knew them.
Not we, I was.
Well, I was down there at least once a week. And the conversations about the house and the land and stuff were usually directed toward me because
the
Alan
house-
did like to deal with men more than
The house wasn't locked ever, so I don't know if that's valid, if you need to know that.
And you being there, that's what I would ask. Their living arrangements, it's a fairly large house.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were there, you said you sat out on the back deck.
Mhm.
There's a deck around the house.
Mm-hmm.
When you walked into the house, what would you see when you walked into the house?
That this house is fairly sparsely decorated
Okay.
for what it is, for the money that they purport to have. It didn't look, there wouldn't even really be anything worth breaking in and taking. I mean, really. No crystal sitting around, no china, one small cabinet with some decorative perfume bottles, that's it. No stereo sitting out. Now their entertainment room is downstairs, but I mean,
Did you go downstairs?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure, I had run of the house actually. And
And
again, it
Connor would
was
stay out there with Katie for a while
Yeah,
down in
it
the
was-
basement.
never locked. They never locked the home.
You had rented the house.
Nope.
Or what did you just say?
Run.
Run of the house.
Oh, you had run of the house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she had to use the restroom
You know,
or
the
something.
restroom
She would run out to
facility.
the
Oh.
house.
Okay, so there isn't a restroom in the barn.
Barn.
Okay. Okay. So you'd go into the house. It was never locked. You could walk in.
Mhm.
If you walked in, what would Alan be doing?
Usually sitting playing solitaire on his computer at that bay window.
Okay. And were there 2 computers in that area?
Yeah, and hers was in the opposite wall. So if they were at their computers, they'd be back to back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he'd be sitting there playing solitaire.
Yeah, solitaire, or and there's always paperwork kind of, and gosh, I don't even think that was a real desk, which I always thought was kind of weird. And then an open briefcase on the floor, and there'd be paperwork on the end of the island, mail and catalogs, and
Their kitchen
Where
was
her-
always filthy.
yeah, the house was always filthy. Those little dogs were gross.
They have a housekeeper?
Yeah.
And who is the housekeeper?
I don't know.
Don't know.
I think she came maybe weekly or bi-weekly or something.
Okay.
Where her computer was to the left was kind of a stack of files for the horse stuff. And then there was liquor sitting in a little thing beside that. And, she always had she's always searching the internet for music to ride to, for this musical freestyle stuff for dressage. And, you know, I know that the computers must not have been password protected, because I know when Katie stayed there, she asked me one time, they paid, X amount for this horse. I said, how do you know that? She said, I saw it on the computer. And I said, well, what were you doing on the computer? And she said, well, I was trying to use the internet, and, this email was there with the correspondence about the price of the horse. And I said, well, Katie, please don't repeat that or disclose it. So I wouldn't say they were super guarded about their financials. Having somebody come into your house and caretake and spend the night there, because that was part of the prerequisite for a caretaker, was that Miriam insisted somebody spend the night with those gross little dogs. They're very sweet, they're gross. And the dogs couldn't be alone. So.
Any weapons laying out? Did you guys ever
No.
see any firearms readily accessible?
And I took him, we went fishing several times and hiking, and
I forgot about all that. You guys used to go fishing.
we go fishing and hiking and never see a thing. I mean, we took his truck a couple times and I never saw anything in the truck or anything.
I did drive old vehicles
Never,
for somebody, that again, they all this money and involved in all these deals, but then again, sometimes people are really eccentric, and wealthy people
maybe
are very
it
tight
just
with their
wasn't,
money.
I don't think the vehicles were important to him at all.
I did have to chase down my check all the time, can I please get paid?
Yeah, she would have to ask several times, and it was almost like a reluctance to try to ask Alan to cut the check. Can I get my check? Can I get my check?
Well, because initially I, would go through everything. I went through Miriam. This was her thing. It was her baby, and she and I were doing this.
You would ask her in person for the check, or would
Sure.
you call her,
No,
or both?
in person, but
In
both.
person?
She called me constantly. I mean, I was on the phone with her constantly.
For hours.
And for little things about horses and just, plans and almost like she was lonely and just wanted to talk.
And some
Yeah.
people are high maintenance. Would you agree? Some people
Yeah.
need a lot of attention.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's just human nature.
Yeah.
She would call a lot though, but it got to the point where you were like, because when they were having discrepancies over the hours, Stephanie said, I'm not even accounting all these hours that she's calling me in the evening when I'm with my family and talking for an hour or 2 hours about absolutely nothing, or about the farm, or about what they should do the next day, or, it was kind of like, Alan is, you're talking about 15 minutes, an hour, 20 minutes and I don't even account for all this extra time that I'm actually spending with you guys doing this. Well, that's not work. Well, it's still hours out of my day and with the family.
It took a long time in initial talks with Alan to try to get him to understand that training a horse is not an hourly thing, that it's like a doctor's visit. When you go to the doctor, it's $50 to walk in the door. Whether you're there for 10 minutes and they say, oh yes, you have strep, or whether you're there for an hour and 10 minutes.
And you have strep.
It's $50.
Correct.
And it took a long time for him to understand that, because he wanted to translate and track everything down to the hour.
The tenths of hours.
Well, yeah. It started getting more and more and more ridiculous. With this, I started at 9:02. No, you started at 9:06. Okay. You're not even down there. The horse is already in the barn. You don't know when I started working on that horse.
Did you ever have to contact him for payment? Your monthly payment?
Oh, I did near the end, after he told me that things need to come to him.
When you would call him, would he answer his phone?
I always went through her phone. I actually didn't have his phone until near the end, actually, his cell phone number.
He put it in a letter or something.
Yeah.
His direct
But I was
number. He
there
put it
every
in
day.
one of the letters that he wrote to us, threatening us with legal action, basically.
But,
And
I
that's
was
what
down
I
there
call-
every day, so face-to-face conversation is much preferred in my opinion, so,
Sure.
yeah. But, he I didn't call him enough for him to, I don't think I'd ever dialed his number, as a matter of fact. And I didn't even know the house phone number. I only had her number for contact, her cell phone. So.
And she found your services.
How did she find me? I have,
Tiger's Place.
was it Tiger?
Yeah, Pam referred you to them.
Yeah, I think that's it. I have my business cards in a couple of the tax stores, but
Okay.
I think Pam might have. Who were they with before that? Kim Shepard at Alomar, I think is where they were beforehand.
Okay.
Their mare that they bought in full, they boarded out of that farm, and I think it pulled at that farm. So I might have met. I met them before March, but I can't remember when it was. I met them and I talked, and then it was maybe in November or December, she contacted me about lessons, but then I didn't hear anything until February because their colt died.
Mm-hmm.
And that, their colt had died, and that was the reason she said she hadn't really been into her horses or doing anything, and it was winter and Alan was really sick.
Mm-hmm.
And she had been taking care of everything herself. And so when she contacted me in February or whatever, she started riding in March. So.
And we went out there initially before you gave really any lessons, or it was just after the first couple lessons, and sat down with Alan and Miriam and went over a laundry list because Alan said, what do we feed them? What do we do? What kind of fencing does it take? What kind of this?
And they already had 4 horses on their property.
And they already had a bunch of horses.
Didn't know what they were doing.
Because then he said, I really want, because he was, there was a couple months, and then he came back to us and said that he wanted to get under contract because he really appreciated the fact that Stephanie went over a nutritional thing, and it was a complete package. It wasn't just riding lessons. Is that right? I mean, that was, she had daily contact with them. I had probably weekly or every other weekly. Went fishing with Alan several times.
Entertained Miriam's son when he came into town.
When he came into town, I took him fishing and took him out and stuff. And I want to say there was a definite, it seemed to me anyway, a definite personality change with Alan about September,
that's
October.
True, and Miriam said that she thought,
time period.
His high blood pressure was off the roof, and she thought maybe, it had to do with that when he cursed me out that day in the barn, she said, I've never seen that. I've never seen him like that.
Had he quit smoking?
Yes.
He was trying to.
I think he had. I think he had quit,
Well, he quit, but he had him in the four-wheeler, and every time he'd get away from everybody, he'd be like, I've got this one, he had this one pack he was carrying around for weeks, and he would smoke one every time he got away from
Yeah,
everybody.
because there was something initially about they were changing insurance companies, health insurance companies in September, and they had to not be smoking. So that was the original date for them to quit smoking. And they fell off of that wagon, and just kind of back and forth,
It was just it was a personality change, because I would say before that, when I was going fishing with him, I would have described him as nice, affable guy.
The first contract was dated October 16th, and everything was okay up until then. He was still being nice and amenable, and the final contract was maybe dated like November 25th. So it was after that he got weird.
It just
was
just
in
seemed
December.
like it seemed really mean.
And you're talking about contract being contract for the land?
No,
There was never any written anything for the land.
For the land, so that never went to contract?
No, that never
any
went to
business
contract, nothing.
No.
The only thing that happened was he said, I need to know what kind of house you guys want.
And we had the plan.
And-
And he paid. He paid
Yeah,
for the
and
plans
he said, come to me with plans. We sat down with him, and he said, let's go to auto draft, and he had them written up. And he said, these are your plans, and you can use them if you build the house, but I'm paying for them, And we're gonna call them Creek Ranch #1 or Creek Ranch, whatever it is. You probably found them out there.
No, probably, yeah.
Well-
I don't know if they found them or not.
Well, and if they're not, they're over there. They can be picked up at any, you can get a copy of them, but not that it matters, I know. But that's my voice, honey. So he just said, I'll have them, and if you wanna build this house, then we can build it. I'll give you a price on it. And that was the only paper exchange. We never signed anything. We never did anything. And he paid for them, and he took the plans. He said, I'll use them. I like your plans, and I'll use them. If you guys don't want them, then I'll use them. And
He said, I'm building this house either way.
Yeah, I'm building this house either way.
Because he really liked what we came up with.
So,
The only other thing that I can think to tell you is, even though this was Miriam's baby, she was still real lazy about it. I'd get there and we'd have lessons scheduled and she just wouldn't ride for the day. She'd have all kinds of really strange little excuses if she didn't feel like riding. But yet this was supposed to be her passion.
Mm-hmm.
She was supposed to ride 5 days a week. I think there was maybe 1 week that she even rode 3 or 4 days. So it was just, but then again, eccentric people, and dressage is work.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to work that hard, it's work, and that's fine. It's her farm. It was her farm and her horses, and if you want to ride, great, and if you don't, well, you're still getting charged for that time I set aside for you.
and that was
I was
part of
gonna
the
say,
time that
that's-
was in discrepancy.
Discrepancy, yeah.
She would show up to give a lesson and Miriam wouldn't want the lesson. And then I don't know what the conversation was between them, but then Alan would come back with, well, you didn't give her a lesson. Stephanie said, no, I was there to give her a lesson and she had a headache or whatever.
Or low blood sugar.
Well,
was
you don't get
tired.
paid for time you do. Well, I drove out here to give you a lesson.
And here I am.
But he just got really, really weird. And, for a businessman, he got really irrational. I mean, the discrepancies were irrational for anybody taking a business 101 course. It's just really, really weird. So I don't know if it was medicine. I know near the end, because Miriam kept telling me it's his high blood pressure. We're having all these tests done, and I'm sure that's why he's acting so funny.
Did she mention any doctors' names or did he go to
They
the hospital?
Started with the chiropractor. What is her name? Dr. First name. I always referred to her as Dr. Where Penny works, and I'm drawing a blank.
New Life?
Yeah, but I can't think of her name. All I could do is Dr. Laura, that person on the Pope radio. Anyway, they started there, and then finally, I remember Miriam saying, I finally am getting him to go to the hospital and see Dr. So-and-so, and they were doing some sort of test, but that test came back great. Something about maybe plaque in his arteries or something. I can't remember now.
Or was
She
he
said
getting a
everything
protein?
was fine.
Was he getting a protein count
I don't
done?
remember.
But a possible blockage, heart blockage,
Maybe.
artery,
Mm-hmm.
arterial blockage.
And they couldn't figure out, according to Miriam, nobody could figure out why his blood pressure was so high. So, don't know. I don't know any more there. I know that he had been, it seemed, just off and on, sick constantly near the end of my tenure with them. When we went back to Elo for the second clinic in October, he was sick the whole time. He ended up staying in the whole hotel room the whole 4 days that we were there. And then we came back and he was sick again. And then when the horses went down to the Front Range, they went down for stock show.
And he was sick.
And he was sick. And then my tenure with them was already, was done, because I remember Jerry telling me, he's sick again.
Cold, flu,
Yes, cold flu-ish thing.
all those.
And in the summer it had been these back flare-ups. So he was, and that was part of the reason maybe he wasn't at the barn when I started working full-time for them.
And his high blood pressure, he's always talking about his blood pressure and stuff.
Yeah, so
He was just he was sickly. He was very sickly, I would say, probably after, ever since we've known him. He's, when we go out fishing and hiking and stuff, he seemed physically fit.
Mhm.
He wouldn't have shortness of breath or anything else. We'd hike a mile or so into some of those lakes. And he was fine with it. But he always seemed to be coming down with something or getting over something constantly. Some illness like a cold or flu, stomach.
And I remember her saying in the fall that she was giving him a hard time, that he needed to get healthy because she wasn't going through another winter like she had the winter before. Because he was sick for like 2 months in the winter and she had to handle everything herself.
It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, especially the way it was set up. It was not set up efficiently at all.
Lots of legwork.
It just wasn't ready. They jumped the gun, constantly were jumping the gun. And she just kept saying he needed to get healthy. Anyway, are we taking pictures?
No, I was just checking to see what time it was, because I know I'm probably keeping you guys from your day.
I'd rather do this once as much as we can. And anyway, they were kind of a bizarre couple. I never saw them really fight. He was definitely controlling, though. And he definitely, I would say, had a thing with women as far as being kind of condescending and controlling. And it really got his ego when a woman got the best of him, I guess, I know he was pissed as hell when Valerie took him to task. Because she told him after the first time to take care of the horses, if he didn't get some of that stuff resolved, she wasn't going to take care of the horses next time. Because that was really unrealistic to expect somebody to do all of that kind of work. Which it was. I mean, they lived there, they were there all day, they had all day to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
When you're paying somebody to drive out here and take care of your animals. And I think that really, really pissed him off. And Miriam even said she thought that it was a little bit of a loss of control during the second tenure that, pissed him off.
When you would get there, what time would you get there?
8:30.
8:30. Was Miriam up by then?
Sometimes. Almost, I would say 4 out of 5 days, she would call me and say, have you left yet? And I'd say, yeah, I just passed 3:41 or whatever, I'm almost there. Oh, we're running behind.
We're running behind, or she was running behind?
She always said we.
Okay.
So, and she, she quite often told me how he didn't sleep. He was up all night, he's just constantly thinking. He's the consummate businessman making things happen, and she seemed to me to be very unscheduled, very leisurely, lax, actually.
Did she say what time they went to bed?
Not all the time. I mean, sometimes she'd say, I was watching this at 11 or, But she didn't really seem to have a set schedule as far as bedtime.
When Miriam would go down, did you ever know that did she muck the stalls?
They did start mucking them finally, yes.
Okay. What did she wear when she would muck the stalls?
Usually tight clothing and some sort of a tank top in the warmer months. In the winter months, she had this pink sweater she wore most of the time with jeans. Then if it was time for her to ride, she'd go up and put on her riding pants and come back down. But she thought she was pretty sexy all the time. And she dressed like she thought she was pretty sexy all the time.
Okay. Footwear. What did she wear in the summertime?
She had some tennis shoes. I remember getting after her about not wearing appropriate footwear if these young horses broke her foot, which ended up happening. She finally bought a pair of paddock boots because I insisted she ride in boots and breeches. And until then, I think she had some white tennis shoes that she used to wear.
Okay. Did she wear like a...
and in the winter she had these fuzzy, like fake suede with fur, fuzzy lace-up boot things that she said were, and they kind of had this weird wedgy heel that weren't really appropriate to walk around on the ground. You could roll your ankle in them, but she wore those. So, and she always said that in the winter she had, I forget what it's called, that condition where your extremities, your toes and your fingers get numb from lack of circulation, like immediately if they get cold. And so initially that was a really big deal, but then all of a sudden it quit being big deal. I don't know, it was really weird. So, I'm sorry, what was your question?
No, I was just wondering about, what would she wear? How would she dress? Was she going after the appropriate wear? Like,
No,
some
and
people
she
wear
said-
mucking boots when they do the
No.
stalls, or they
No.
wear irrigation boots, or
She didn't really dress like I would say was appropriate, and when we did talk about equestrian clothing or show clothing or whatever, she was really into, she kept wanting to reproduce this silk shirt that she said she wore as a girl in boarding school in Europe. That they were required to wear this silk blouse, and it had the real tight sleeves to here, and then they like billowed, and this collar. She wanted one of those to wear. And I said, that's not really appropriate show clothing. I just wanted. And then she wanted this other jacket, and I said, you can't show in that either. Well, I just, I want this. And she ordered a bunch of clothes, I think, from Tiger's store, and then ended up not buying them once they came in. For whatever reason. And color was one thing she cited to me that, might have had something to do with financial constraints at that time. I'm not really sure. When she went down to stock show, and when we went to that clinic in October, she wore that white fake suede and fake fur kind of stylish jacket. Something I would never walk into a barn in because of the filth. And I remember Jerry telling me at stock show she had this on. And she was, walking around like she was somebody and talking to trainers and people at stock show like she was this big wig with all these big fancy horses. Which she wasn't, and that wasn't the market with these horses. We weren't going for that elite, upper echelon, athletic, track kind of horse.
because you're talking 40 to 60,000 if you've got an upper end dressage, or even
A
more.
lot more than that, but yeah.
But I mean, for the Valley Wise,
Right. We're talking
Area
The
about
market is not.
we're talking about top end, a $35,000 nice quality prospect here, or a super finished horse.
Mhm.
So that wasn't really our market, which was kind of weird because I know that at stock show, Jerry told me she talked to this Canadian jumper trainer, that had won quite a few classes and was leading him to believe she was going to send a bunch of horses up to him to train. So, she liked to play that game, I guess.
what questions do you guys have for me?
Well, there's a multitude, but you're not going to answer them.
Probably
so.
Probably not.
Well, yeah, I'd like to know, where was he found? In what room, can you say? Because I feel like if certain rooms he wouldn't have been in them.
And I think I better not at
Okay,
this point
that's
in time. Maybe at some point in time I can,
That's fine.
but at this point in time.
If it was anywhere downstairs, he hated downstairs. He hated to go downstairs. Didn't watch TV down there either. Didn't know how to work it. So if he watched TV, it was in the bedroom. So he was either always pretty much at the computer, on the deck, or in the bedroom.
I never saw him when he wasn't either on the deck, at the computer, or in his bedroom with the door. Because I'd go in the
And
house
they
to
kept-
use the bathroom or something, I'd be down helping them, and I'd be like, "Where's Alan? Oh, he's in bed."
And they kept the downstairs blocked off, so that at the top of the stairs, so the dogs couldn't get down there. And Alan said, "Doesn't matter. I don't ever go down there anyway." So I just threw that out there. I don't know why, but
Okay.
I feel like any insignificant information that we have
it's significant.
could put a puzzle together. I don't know.
And that's what we do is
Yeah.
everybody holds a piece, and then we start putting it together.
He was definitely different.
Well, they both were. They were different. I didn't see them fight. I never saw them argue or
Oh,
fight.
he treated me like gold though, until just the very end, and then there was like this.
I want to say it was
Totally
almost like a light
different
switch because he
personality.
talked to me differently too, and it was just didn't seem like Alan. And
Well, we
by
had,
the time all this culminated with our taxes and all that stuff,
and our accountant knew him, knew him, and she told me when all of this started going down that she had heard through the professional grapevine they were in some significant financial trouble.
And who's your tax preparer?
She also owns the barn that I currently train out of. So, she was our accountant first.
Okay.
If that matters. But anyway, I guess if you need us, you just call us. Is that what happens?
And,
What?
and you've got my number too.
And you
Right.
want me to just email you
The names
of the
and
people from the front range?
from the front
Can
range.
I use your pen for a second?
Certainly.
I'll write it on here, so.
If you
With
need
the,
any of that other
Just in case we need it.
email
We may,
correspondence, though, I don't know that it's significant.
you know what? Can I reach out to you
Sure.
if we feel that that's a
It's,
part of the puzzle?
it's there.
Just basically the
Front range names.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
and
You don't need.
trainers, maybe vets, anybody over there that you maybe that use theirs that were involved in their business transactions. So, because we're looking for what happened down. Okay, and you folks know, and it's been in the media that this is a homicide
Sure.
investigation. So,
Definitely, yeah. That's shocking. It's sad. I don't,
that's why I'm asking. Do you know anybody that would hurt him based on your time and experience with Alan?
no,
Anybody?
but people that I know him, their response, I got a flurry of phone calls with people, have you heard the news, have you heard the news? And, so many people say it's not surprising. Not surprising. That's what everybody's reaction is. Not surprising. Okay.
We don't think like that, so it's been that, and that's been one of
But
the
it's
things
not
that's been freaking
surprising
out.
when I think about it. It kind of, if
We
he,
don't-
like I said, if he was like that with us over something, really insignificant.
$800 is not significant,
To
and that's what it
somebody
boiled
that
down
deals
to.
in $1 million deals, I mean,
During this flurry of phone calls, when they said it's not surprising that he's deceased, or did they say this is not surprising and then named a suspect after that?
nobody named a suspect, but several people did tell me there's no way it was suicide.
Yeah,
He
that was
was
what we got.
too
That was
arrogant for it to be
overwhelming.
suicide, which I have to agree.
And we've
Besides the fact that he's so much of a businessman that a suicide would negate any insurance policy.
correct.
So I agree. There's.
And we've already released it to the media that
Right.
it is a homicide investigation.
we
so,
understand that, but initially when there wasn't
but
anything released, we had a flurry of
reports-
people who were just like,
Reports of the news agencies in Denver say that the house had been ransacked and he had been beaten. But then,
and I don't want to.
obviously
You-
compromise.
don't feel like
No.
we're probing, because we're
No,
not.
and you're
It's
not.
almost
But
like
I
we
just
don't want to know.
I would just
but
like to say that the media doesn't always get the
Right.
facts straight.
And I also
Does that
saw,
make sense?
I worked 13 years for a paper outside of Richmond, and most of the time we don't get it exactly straight. So
they
it's
said that about $1,100 worth of things had been stolen, which I could probably only be her laptop computer. I don't know. I just can't see where there was anything sitting around in that house. To be
Of
stolen.
value?
Mm-mm.
that was my first thought was if
I mean,
somebody
it barely
broke
looked
in,
like they lived there.
why in the heck would they break into that house to steal anything? Because it was so sparsely. It was a fine, but there wasn't any. There wasn't like golden goblets sitting around or
Or
China cabinet. I mean, just nothing.
Van
Nothing.
Gogh paintings or anything.
In fact, there's
like that.
nothing on the walls except for one tapestry. They didn't even have, there were no pictures of family sitting around anywhere. No pictures on the wall of family. Her closet is kind of off of the bathroom, and I don't recall even seeing jewelry sitting out anywhere, ever, or even a jewelry box. I know she had several designer gowns from when she danced competitively that were supposed to be worth some money. And that was the only thing she ever indicated. She said this is the only thing worth anything in the house. But no,
obviously they were stuff there, but
and like I said, the house was never locked. Never.
Do you guys lock your house?
absolutely.
Well, we're downtown.
We're
we're
up
in
on
the city.
Horizon, so.
And I don't think it matters where you live, you lock your house, right?
When you leave, when you go,
We lived in Kiowa, and we didn't at times down there. We lived out in Kiowa, and we were out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah,
serious middle of nowhere.
yeah. But we didn't lock there sometimes if we knew that, especially if guests were coming, we would just leave it open for them and stuff. But it was just not locked, and I don't know.
They were pretty lax in general about lots of things.
There were, I can remember being there and filling the buckets with warm water, so they would have warm water down with the horses to break ice with. And in the garage, and when I'd go over to go fishing and stuff, we'd get Alan's stuff, and there was always used checkbooks and filing cabinets and stuff just sitting in the garage open. And it was like, what?
Yeah.
It seems like stuff you would keep protected or somewhere else or something. It was almost like he moved it in there
Yeah, you know,
and just never messed with it.
Right
It was stuff that he didn't need or something.
right before we parted ways, there had been a big to-do over cleaning out a storage area, a storage unit down in Delta somewhere that had something to do with the mortgage business that Portia was coming back and kind of taking over. And I think Wendy maybe had a bunch of stuff stored in that, and Alan said he was done paying for it, you know, if the girls had all of their stuff. So it was this big deal because we had to totally rearrange plans because they had to go down and take care of cleaning out this storage unit right away, immediately. It was like, but that, I don't remember any more details or specifics about that.
Okay.
But we have to hurry, you know, it was a big deal. Everything's put on hold. We've got to go do this.
That was from Miriam.
Uh-huh. And Alan also
Okay.
said it, but, you know, and then Miriam the next day, oh, we were so busy, you know, we had to clean all this stuff out. And,
What did you hear about the car bombing? You brought back to memory that, or
the car fire, just that Luda had told me, yesterday Luda told her that.
And we actually heard that it was
Well, Luda said truck.
Yeah, the truck had been
initially.
burned.
And I told Brian, I said, well, I saw both of the trucks on the news. They look fine.
So,
But then Luda, you know, in a conversation, I didn't ask her, but she said, you know, and then the car had been burned. Yeah. So that was, you know, that's pretty much all I can think of.
okay,
so what happens now?
I get to type this report.
I guess I'm asking, what happens with,
Is Miriam okay?
Yes,
Is she?
I
Okay.
interviewed her.
Good.
She's fine. Upset.
oh, sure.
She found him?
That's correct. She went home and found him. What I can do is, if you guys will get that information,
Mhm.
we will put that into the information that we need for his financial dealings. And
Can I just write it down for you since I'm here, or would
you
really
do you
rather-
have it up
Yeah,
here?
most of it, yeah.
Do you really?
Well, yeah.
Most of them are friends.
Oh, okay.
The horse community is small and we all know each other, so
Oh,
if
okay.
something happened, we could just go,
Because
oh, call
you-
so-and-so.
But you said Luda's phone number just like bam. I was
Mhm.
like, wow.
Most of these people I talk to on a daily basis.
This is the first time, and this is the first time we've ever even known anybody that's been killed. And it's somebody we know, and it's somebody that we had pretty close relationships with a long time. So it's completely upsetting, because then we're like,
That's why
What
they
if the
hired
person-
me for all these contacts.
what if, you know, whoever's has done this comes after us because we were so tight with them at some point? What if we know something we don't even know we know? And then you start going down the whole line of the TV shows and stuff, and you start you know, and I know it doesn't work like that, because having worked with I was a photographer,
Mhm.
and worked with the police and emergency and stuff for years in that Richmond and Washington DC area, and
How do you spell her?
I know it doesn't work like it does on TV, but at the same time, it just kind of, it unnerves you.
It does, and I think sometimes the media gives or the shows that are on TV like CSI Miami or CSI New York or 48 Hours, they give the impression that a crime is committed, investigated, and closed in an hour.
Right.
I think we're into 72 now, so I mean,
My horse is down at these people's right now, as a matter of fact. So,
so when you were a photographer, did you do just crime scene, or were you a photographer?
I was a photojournalist, and I worked strung for AP, and but having lived and worked in the same area for so long, anytime anything happened, I would get a call.
Right, same. You got footage
from one of you guys.
Sure.
I'm not supposed to be calling you. You need to be here at 4:30 in the morning. Why? Just be there at 4:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was that kind of deal. And I helped them out. I got them photos and stuff. You asked about do we know anybody that would hurt him? I don't know of any names, but I mean, he always talked about having conflicts with people over labor or over money.
yeah,
Or over at the bank. He was doing something with the bank, and he'd go down there and they didn't understand. And
Kathy's husband, by the way, is the DA at Weld County.
Oh, okay.
Just
All right.
FYI there.
All right.
So. God, I'm just drawing a blank on some of these people's last names.
You said Weld County?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
If I have any other questions, I'll reach out to you. Okay.
please do.
And if we have any other questions or concerns, we'll get with you guys, okay?
they still owe Shannon. I know, they shorted her last check.
Okay.
That's me with
All
my
right.
cell number on it, so
Okay.
that you can get me, because that's the easiest way to catch me during the day, because I'm in the office.
You don't,
Okay.
you don't need my business card, do you?
I know where to find you.
That's kind of what I figured, scary as that is. Well, it was nice meeting you.
Pleasure to meet you, Steph.
It was very nice to meet you.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, it was really creepy to meet you on New Year's.
Oh.
You know? I hope it's some deranged person that you find that didn't know it and it was random.
Well, you know, and we always look at who has the most to gain, and was there anything that was related?
As the investigation continues, a surprising new development sends police in a new direction. Weeks after Alan's murder, Miriam comes forward with a greeting card she found on her doorstep. The mysterious note appears to be from Alan's killer, and threatens that Miriam is next. Forced to look at other suspects, detectives turn to Brian Schneider, who is in jail for identity theft and admitted to stealing Alan and Miriam's identity in order to empty their bank accounts. Could Brian have decided to eliminate his victims? Detectives bring him in for a formal police interrogation to find out.
You know, the first thing that you talk about here is how you met Alan Helmick. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Their whole dance studio,
Mm-hmm.
and I found their account numbers and I tried to steal their whole identity, and he caught me. But he didn't really do much about it.
Okay. How did you? Can you explain that? You found their account numbers.
Because I had both of their names, and you can use the internet and you kind of go from there.
Okay, but how did you have their names? What was it that?
My niece was in Miriam's class when they first opened up in 2006, and then I knew their name from there, and then somebody told me they had a lot of money. And so I got through there, and he didn't really do a whole bunch.
Oh, okay. What's your niece's name?
Sheree.
Sheree what? And she lived here in Grand Junction?
Not no more. She lives in Glenwood.
In Glenwood? Okay. So what exactly did you do once you got their names? You got those from your...
Well, I found out her name, and then I can't remember how I found out his, and then I got their marriage number off the internet, and found out all their information, and then you can pretty much buy anything off the internet about anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then he caught me through a free credit report thing. Like, they contacted him, I guess, and said that there was charges, and then there was applications being put through in his name.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was logging through, and then they sent him all the paperwork on it, and then it came back to me, actually to my address.
Okay. Where was your address at that time?
591 Greenfield Circle West.
Okay. And so did he contact you about that?
Yeah, he showed up.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember about when that was?
I don't remember exactly what day it was. I remember we were all drinking. I know it was on a weekend.
When he showed up?
Yeah, he showed up. It was a Friday because I just got off work and we were drinking, and he showed up. And at first, I didn't realize who he was. I was like, oh.
Okay. So what year would that have been?
It would have been 06.
Okay. And you said that we were all drinking. Who else was there when he showed
My
up?
roommates.
And what are their names?
They're actually that charge against them. One's name is Boyd and Jason. I don't know their last names. I only lived with them for like a month.
Boyd and Jason, but they lived at that address on Greenfield. Whose name was the rented?
It was in Boyd's and his girlfriend's name.
Okay.
If you look on my discovery on one of my cases, it says their names on it.
Okay. So Alan shows up, and what happened?
Pretty much, he's, are you Brian? I was like, yeah. And starts asking me all sorts of questions, and I linked who he was. And I told him, I was like, yeah, and you caught me. And kind of went from there. He didn't say a whole bunch about it. He, asked me why I was doing it. He asked, like, if I was in a rough time in my life, if I need money, stuff like that. And I was like, no, not really. I was just being an asshole, pretty much.
Okay.
So
he didn't make a police report on it or anything?
Nope. I paid him back $750, and that was it.
Okay. When did you pay him back the $750?
That same night.
What's that?
That same night.
Okay.
Because at first he was going to call the cops. So.
Mm-hmm. How much did you take from him then when you stood there? $1,800?
Yeah.
And how did you do that?
I got a credit card underneath his name and maxed the credit card out.
Oh, okay.
So.
What kind of credit card was it?
MasterCard.
Do you remember what company it was or what carrier?
I don't. I still have paperwork because he gave me a copy of all his paperwork, so I could probably find out what company it came from.
Okay. All right. So he decided not to press charges. Why?
He's just being a nice guy, I guess.
Okay.
He was. I don't know. He seen that I wasn't going through a hard time in life, but I was like, I don't want to get in trouble. I just moved here. It's like I made a mistake.
Was he angry?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, once he found out that I'd be willing to pay him back, then he kind of calmed down. But at first he was pretty angry.
And you said you paid him back $750 that night?
Yeah.
Were you working at that time or?
SST Energy.
Okay. And then so that seems like kind of a strange way. You said that you became friends.
Like after that, I didn't talk to him for a little while, and then I ran into him, and he's like, "Well, if you need anybody to talk to, because I just broke up with my girlfriend, and going through a hard time," and I just started talking to him from there.
He told you that he broke up with his girlfriend?
I broke up with my girlfriend, and then he's like, "Well, if you need anybody to talk to," I ran into him on the Smiths on Patterson.
You ran into him where?
It's on F Road.
What's the name of it?
There's a gas station and grocery store. It's right on Patterson. It's a big grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gas station right across the street too. So
At 29 in Patterson?
Here's Orchard and the Racket Club Apartments, and you go straight down the road.
Okay.
I don't know what the directions are here.
So he recognized you and you were talking there?
He actually said hi to me. So.
Okay. And so you told him that you just broke up with your girlfriend?
He said, how you doing? I was like, well, broke up with my girlfriend, kind of going through a rough time, a little depressed, and then my mom was really sick. My mom actually just passed away, but she was really sick at the time. He's like, well, if you need any help or need anybody to talk to, just go ahead and give me a call. And he gave me his number.
Okay. And was it a cell phone number or a landline number?
He gave me two different numbers, and I never called one of the numbers. The first number he called me, or gave me, was a cell phone number, because I called him once and it said the wireless customer isn't available. And I never tried to call the other.
Okay. So did you get a hold of him at that wireless number?
A few times. Most of the time nobody answered it though.
Okay. And what was that number?
I would have to get it out of my cell phone.
Okay. So but you actually talked to him at that number or not?
I talked to him 3 or 4 times at that number, but most of the time nobody would answer that number.
Okay.
Yeah, that it would go straight to the person is unavailable, the mailbox number, and then it gives you the number, and then please leave a message.
Is that what you're referring to here when you talk about August to January of 06? Or August 06 to January of 08, you said you had some contact with him?
Yeah. And then I went to prison in Nevada, and then I read him a letter about every other month. and then it kind of stopped. And then he wrote me a letter and told me about what happened to his car and everything. And yeah.
Okay. Do you still have any of those letters?
The prison does.
Okay. Was that the state prison?
It was at a Northern Nevada Correctional Center.
Okay. And you say they would have those letters?
I'm pretty sure that's what happens to him. Because I got extradited here from Nevada,
Uh-huh.
and all you could take was your legal work. And I had a whole thing full of letters. And then they had those. I never seen them again.
Okay.
Like, they have my picture still.
So you're saying that you went to prison on March 13th, and then how often did you exchange letters then?
Just about every month.
And he would write you back.
It took him a while, but he'd write me back, like half a page or a page. He never really got intense with his letters or anything, but it was nice to hear from people. Like, he was one of the only people I wrote in prison. So.
And you said that he wrote you about his car being set on fire, and also about a couple of guns missing. Was that in the same letter? Or
yeah, because it was in the same letter. Because my cousin actually called him to get his address again because I moved facilities, and then I lost everything, my Bibles and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he wrote that, he told me that he had guns in the house, and then he couldn't remember, if he let somebody in or if somebody came in and took him. And he was like, I don't know if it's the neighborhood kids or what. And then I told him he should invest in security systems.
Okay. And so that was that was in May of 2008. And what did he say about the car fire?
He didn't really go into detail about it. He just said somebody set my car on fire and it really pisses him off, or it irks his ass. And that was pretty much all the detail he went into that.
Okay.
I didn't find out all that stuff until I was getting out of jail. And then Amy Audubon, the bondsman, she was kind of telling me what happened. I was like, wow.
And what was the address that you were exchanging mail with him at?
It's Samoana Road, and there's a big number on it.
Okay. Was that in Grand Junction or?
No, like right past here, right before Montrose.
Mm-hmm.
Little,
Whitewater?
Yeah, or I say White Rocks.
Okay. Did he tell you what kind of guns were missing?
He didn't. He did tell me when I was talking to him, I can't remember what time it was, but I was asking him about guns because my dad sells SKSs. He's like, yeah, I have quite a few guns myself.
This was during your correspondence with him?
Yeah, it was when I was still out.
Oh, okay.
I remember him saying that he had quite a few guns himself.
This was before you went to prison, or?
Yeah, that was before I went to prison.
So you wrote him letters before you went to prison?
Just one.
Oh, okay. And then you wrote that he stated, Miriam is starting to act out, seems to be getting darker.
Yeah, and I didn't put it in there, but he was kind of like saying how when she argues with him, and she gets real big. I don't know, like, I called once, and then I asked him what he was doing. I was going to take him out to dinner. And then he was saying something, his son-in-law, or one of his relatives were coming down and he couldn't. And then she was yelling in the background, and he's like, oh, you know what that means, I gotta go. And then, saying about arguing. I don't know if I could take that statement much farther, but.
Yeah. So when was the last time you actually saw him? Was it the time at the gas station? Or did you see him after that?
It would have been like December of 07.
Okay. And where was that at?
Yeah, because it was right before I went back to Nevada, went to prison, and I was at the mall. The Western store.
At the Mesa Mall here?
Western. Or
Corral West?
Corral West.
Okay.
Right there by the No Fear store.
And that was when?
That was in December, because I was still shopping for Christmas.
Okay, December of 07.
Yeah.
Was he by himself?
Nope. He had a younger kid with him. I don't know who he was.
Okay, by younger kid, what do you mean? How old?
Like, a little older than me, maybe like 25-ish.
Okay.
Looked pretty young.
Yeah. So what did you put on here that Miriam was starting to act out?
That's pretty much, I remember his letter saying that she was acting out. I didn't really.
He didn't give you anything more specific about what he meant. Did you write back to him after that?
Yeah. I told him, I was like, you shouldn't have to put up with that shit. If she wants to act like that, and tell her to kick rocks.
All right. So about when did you write him back after this letter in May?
See, it would have been, because my mom died May 14th. It was like May 17th when I sent my letter back out to him.
Okay.
And then I never got a response from him. I got a letter from Miriam saying I needed to mind my own business.
Okay. How did you know it was from Miriam?
The handwriting.
Okay. Did she sign it or anything?
No, it was signed Helmick, but they both did that with all their letters. And they probably know from like looking at their checks that their first name was like insignificant and their last name's big on the checks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And she was really kind of rude.
Had you ever met her?
I met her once. They were at the liquor store going through Orchard Mesa, like when you go down the bridge.
Mhm.
And then I called and he said he was there. I was like, well, I'll stop by and say hi real quick. And then like, she was like, hi. And all rude. Besides that, I've never really. And then
So you went to his house?
No, just at that gas station. I've never went to his house.
Okay. So which gas station were they at again? I thought you said you were talking about liquor store, then you said something like gas station.
There's like a little liquor store, and I think there's a gas station right next to it. Like if you follow the highway going through Orchard Mesa and you come down the bridge, like you're gonna come back into downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that liquor store right on top of the hill. They're right there.
Okay.
And like if you go down the road a little bit farther, you can turn onto Unity and go straight.
Okay. There's no gas station though. There's just a
liquor
gas
store.
There's just a liquor store there.
I think that-
Hilltop Liquors.
Yeah, like if you go straight down, like you'll go into a bridge, like the
If you're going back into town, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you'll come out like downtown by the park, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking there's a
Okay.
gas
And
station.
she was inside or?
No, she was actually standing outside with a bag.
Okay. And did he introduce you or?
No, I knew he knew I knew who she was because I met her from the dance studio, but that was about the only time I've ever associated with her.
Okay.
She was kind of rude with me because I'm assuming he told her what I did.
Okay.
I never asked, but
Right. And then going back, you said that you met her at the dance studio?
yeah.
Tell me about that. How did you meet her? And what was your interaction with her at the dance studio?
She actually gave Cherie a ride like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And she would always give Cherie rides. And then I went in there one day and I was just, waiting for Cherie to get done because she was going home with me. And I sat there and she's like, well, it's nice days out, just general talk. Besides that, I've never really had contact with her.
Okay. And about
Like
when,
at that time, I was still in the process of stealing their identity,
Oh.
so I was trying not to.
about when was that?
I was getting pretty chilly, so September or October.
Of 06?
Because they were still fairly new.
Okay.
When they didn't even have any of their old sound or their new sound equipment.
And where was the dance studio at?
They were still in their temporary building. They had the 2 temporary buildings when they first moved.
Mhm.
And they had the one up on Horizon and then one downtown. And we were always up on Horizon.
Okay. How old is your niece, Cherie?
She is 23.
23. Okay. Let's see.
Is that dance studio still open here?
No.
They made a lot of money.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, it always seemed like they made a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
It took me a long time to figure out how to steal their identity, and like a lot of money was.
Did you ever get into their bank account stuff?
No, I could see what was in their bank account though.
Oh, really?
Like, I couldn't take anything out or put anything in or nothing like that, but I could always see what was in their bank account.
And you said that there were internet websites that you were able to find that stuff on?
Yeah, there's like 20 or 30 different websites. Like if I knew your first and last name
Mhm.
and like just got an address or even like if I found your middle name out
Mhm.
and or just followed you in your car, got your license plate number, I could find out everything about you.
And that's how you got their identity and stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
just that's pretty messed up.
Yeah, you said that when you got out of prison, I was trying to see when that was.
I got out of prison August 6th, extradited here, got out August 13th.
Oh, okay. So basically, you finished your time in Nevada, and then you had other things waiting for you here.
I had this case that I'm in prison.
Oh, okay.
And then they extradited me.
Okay. And then you said that you had called the number that you had labeled as Alan 2. Was that his cell phone number or his?
This is a number that I had, and then I know he had 2 different cell phones though. And then the one that he gave me, he never answered, so I always assumed he had a work phone.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never like fully aware of what Alan did, so I never, hey, how come you never answer that? But that's the number that's in my phone.
Okay. How do you know he had 2 different cell phones?
Because he always had 2 phones on him.
Oh, okay. What color were those phones?
I don't remember.
You don't
I remember he had 2 phones because I was giving shit about it.
Really? That he had 2 because he had 2 phones?
Because I was like, man, you're kind of pimping around here, got 2 phones, you know?
Yeah, but you don't remember what color they were.
No, I don't.
Police quickly determined Brian did not have a strong motive or opportunity to kill Alan, and suspicions turned back to Miriam. Detectives uncover surveillance video from the store where the greeting card was purchased. When officers watch the video, they see Miriam Helmick purchasing the card herself. With evidence stacking up against Miriam, she flees the state, relocating to Florida. In December 2008, police catch up with her and charge her with first-degree murder in connection with Alan's death. At trial a year later, Miriam is convicted of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and multiple counts of forgery. She is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 198 years. Miriam is clear she'll be appealing her convictions, but in early 2010, her cellmate Marilynne Johnson comes forward with explosive new evidence.
I saw it in the newspaper.
Oh, okay.
I won't say it.
That's understandable. I'm used to that.
Okay.
Investigator Warner told me that when they were speaking to you, I think it was last week, that you had mentioned that you wanted to talk to me about Miriam Helmick.
That's correct.
And we're not going to talk about, the case that you're involved in.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and he said that you were comfortable speaking to me without your attorney because we're not going into any of that other stuff.
Mhm.
Is that accurate?
That is exactly right.
Okay.
And
All right.
I hope I'm not wasting your time.
Oh,
I just
no.
want to let you know, I think I have a few pieces of the
Mhm.
puzzle that's missing,
Well,
I
that'd be
think
great.
the family has a right to know why she did what she did.
Sure.
That is why I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Some of it, do you want me to start and then you
Yeah,
can
just
ask
go
me
ahead.
questions?
You bet.
What the whole deal started over is Alan gave Miriam the, it's either the title company or mortgage company in Delta.
You
They-
gave it to her?
He gave her $3,000 a month income off of that. This is her story.
Okay.
And so you're gonna have questions because I know
Sure.
you will. He gave that to her. Then he got into a financial bind and he decided he needed to sell that. Plus he wasn't really getting the money from his partner like he was supposed to from that company. So the day he went to Delta to sell that is the day that she tried to blow up his car. Because he backed out of the deal. He sold that money, that company. He had a $125,000 check that day. He gave it to Miriam to put in her purse. She put it in her purse, and then she tried to kill him and her because when she came out, the lady was leaning across the car talking to Alan. It was a little too close, and she felt like there was some kind of affair or something like that, and she just snapped. It just really made her mad, you know what I mean? So she wasn't only trying to kill Alan, she was trying to kill that woman too. The woman that for the mortgage company, I think it was. I always say title, but I'm pretty sure it was a mortgage company.
Okay. Was it the one in Delta?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did you get the impression that this was something that she had planned out, or was it spur of the moment thing, or?
No, she had planned his murder before this, but the shooting was not planned. The shooting was not planned, but this was planned. But it wasn't exactly supposed to happen the way it did, but that made her mad and she snapped, you know what I mean? And so
It made her mad that the woman from the title company was talking to Alan?
and it was leaning in the car and it was they were way too close, she said. She said, if you would have seen them, you would have known they were having an affair.
Oh, really?
So that's what made her mad about that.
And so what did she tell you that she did after she saw the two of them talking at the car?
She never actually admitted putting that wick into the car, but she described everything else. You know what I mean?
Like what? Can you remember?
Exactly. After it didn't blow up, Alan came around the corner. There was smoke coming out, and she knew then, that something, so she had to pretend it wasn't her that did it. He took that wick out. She says he took it out and handed it to her. She didn't know what to do with it, so she threw it in the trash. So that's when I started asking her questions. I said, why would you throw that in the trash? Well, she said, what are you going to do with it? I said, call the police. Someone just tried to kill you. At this time, I am not believing that she did this. I'm like totally not believing it was her that did this.
So she's just telling you what happened.
Yeah, she's telling me what happened, right? But then she starts telling me why it happened. She starts telling me that he had given her that company, then he backed out. He didn't give her the company, gave her $3,000, then he sold it. So that $125,000 belonged to her, is what she said. He owed me that, she said. That was her exact words. He owed me that money. Okay, so I still don't quite believe that she did that until she tells me she threw the wick away, that she was the one that tried to destroy the evidence, get rid of it. I said, why didn't you call the police? Why wouldn't that be your first thought, is to call the police? Someone just tried to kill you and your husband. Because I think Alan tried to kill me, she said. I know. So that made me kind of mad, because I realized then that Alan never tried to kill her. You know what I mean?
So you asked her, why did you throw the wick away, and why didn't you call the police and all that? Did she ever admit to you that she lit the wick, or that she was the one that stuck it in there?
No. And I have to tell you, she never admitted anything.
Okay.
She never came right out and said, I killed Alan. She never came out and said, I pulled the trigger. She did tell me where Alan kept his gun. The reason I know she is the one that did this, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, is because she lied on the stand. She came back that first day and she told me the things that she lied about on the stand.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
You mean the day after she testified?
The first day that she testified.
What did she tell you about that?
First of all, that she did look up how to death by nicotine is how she typed it into the computer. She said, I did look that up. I said, how come you didn't tell them? Because she had already told me all that. She had looked up death by, and it was a bunch of things, foxglove, it was all these different kinds of herbs, it was all these different medications, it was all these different things. She explained that to me. It was because of her daughter's death, that her daughter died of a combination of taking 2 different drugs, so she's been paranoid about that ever since. So she was afraid with all the drugs that Alan was taking, that she had to look that up, and she couldn't just type in, for example, nicotine, that would come up. So she had to put death by nicotine. Well, then when they asked her on the stand, did you look that up? She said, no. This is what she told me. I wasn't there. She said, no, I didn't look that up. And so then I'm like, why did you lie? I said, you had a perfectly good explanation for it. I said, why did you lie? And she said, I also know that she tried to commit that way in Florida. That's why I know that she did know about death by nicotine, is because she bought those patches, several boxes of them, and she tried to commit that way. So I do know that she knew.
This is what she told you? That she tried to commit with nicotine patches?
Yes.
This was after she went to Florida, after Alan died?
That's correct.
Okay.
So
right.
I do know that she did look that up. So that's why I was asking her. I said, your attorney let you lie? I said, your attorney knew that you tried to commit? Because I heard that in the paper it said that she tried to commit, right? So I assumed everybody knew, because she had told me, I assumed everybody knew that was the way she tried. She said, I never told my attorney that. I said, well, how do they know that you tried? I told them it was by pills. Okay, so why did you lie? You know what I mean? So then the gun, they asked her if she ever had seen the gun or knew anything about the gun. He kept it in his sock drawer, and she told me that he kept it in his sock drawer.
Oh, really? Did she describe it?
It was a handgun, but I mean, she didn't go. She could have told me what it was, and I don't know. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna think I'm lying about that, because my whole family has guns. I should know guns, but I don't. You know what I mean? I don't pay attention.
So what exactly did she tell you about the gun, or can you describe that conversation, or how that came up?
The first time she found it, she was putting socks away in the drawer, and her hand touched the gun, and she freaked out and told Alan he needed to move that gun, and he never did. So, she says she has a thing that she doesn't like guns, yet then she'll turn around and say that she's an expert shot. You know what I mean? That her and Jack used to shoot all the time, and she's an expert shot. And then she'll be like, oops, shouldn't have said that, and you know what I mean? It's kind of a back and forth thing, but she knows how to shoot. I know that because she admitted she knows how to shoot, and she knew where that gun was. That's why I'm like, if you knew where that gun was, why didn't you just say, yeah, he kept it in his sock drawer if you didn't shoot him? You know what I mean? Also, she told me that morning they got up and he was really mad at her. He knew that she was stealing. He knew that his bank account was off, and he knew that it was probably her because of her past history. Alan had paid like $20,000 when she got in trouble with Barbara Watts. And so she he didn't want her arrested, but he told her to go to Mississippi. Alan gave her money to go to Mississippi to get all that cleared up. She got down there, she got arrested. Alan paid the lawyer fees, paid everything to get her out of that trouble with Barbara Watts, you know? So Alan knew her history. She'd been arrested for checks, for stealing, for all that stuff. So when his account came up missing all this money, she told me that she was kiting checks. That's how she hid it. Because I said, how would you hide that kind of money from Alan? First, she had an ATM card, and he took that away from her because she kept going and getting money out of his account. So he took the ATM card away from her. These are her words, too. She told me that she had to come to him for money. Well, she didn't like that because sometimes she'd go to him and ask him for money, and he would be like, a week later, a month later, you know, which I doubt, but that's what she said, you know. So she just started kiting checks. Once she realized how easy it was, it got more and more and more and got out of hand. I said, that doesn't make sense to me because you don't have a drug problem. You don't have a gambling problem. What would you do with that kind of money? She told me most of it she sent home to her son, Fritz. He was in college, and one semester he needed books, and another semester he needed help with his rent, and you know. And she said that every time she turned around, she was sending him money. To Chris, she told him, "I won this in Vegas. I won this money when Alan and I went to Vegas." So that's what she was doing with the money, is giving it to her son.
Right.
Okay.
Did she say anything about the dance studio or how as far as the financial situation at the dance studio, or in relation to the finances?
She just said that was basically hers, and she was allowed to write checks on that account.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that everybody knew that she was allowed to write checks on that account. That was basically hers.
Okay.
You know, until it came out, until the trial came out, then all of a sudden it was like, that dance studio was Alan's.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, he bought it for you. You even told me that. And we kind of argued back and forth about different things that she said. I really didn't know she was a liar at first. That is the truth. I didn't know. So I'd catch her in a few lies, but I didn't know the extent of her lies until the trial. And then it was clear. So then I went to my lawyer and I said, you know what? Is there any way she's going to get off? Is there any way she's going to walk? No, I don't think so. They said they have her. I said, okay, then I don't think I have to come forward and talk about this. And I told my lawyer, but I know she's lying. You know, my lawyer said, if it comes down to it, you can tell him that she perjured herself on the stand. The reason I'll go into another thing, she talked about an appeal, you know, that she's going to come back. This is not over for Alan's family, you know what I mean? And I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to come back. And she put but the IRS put a $20,000 lien against Alan's home, you know, and she was all happy. And she told several of us back there that she was happy that that family has to pay that $20,000 off.
She said there was a lien on Alan's home?
From the IRS.
Okay.
Yeah, the dance studio, pretty much it was Alan's by the time the trial came along. At first it was hers, the money was hers, and she was entitled to all the money from the dance studio.
And then everybody knew she was writing checks and stuff.
And see, she kept telling me that she can bring people into the trial that knows that Alan gave her permission. So when she said at the end that I'm gonna plead guilty to the checks, I'm like, why? You told me that you can bring people in, even Stephanie, the horse trainer, you told me that she even can confirm that you were allowed to write checks. I said, why would you plead guilty to that? You're not guilty of it. And she says, I am guilty of it. And that's when she said I was kiting checks.
Those are the words she used. I was kiting checks.
The exact words. I was kiting checks. I
So
don't really know what that means. I don't know what she meant by that. Don't get me wrong. I know what kiting a check means off my own bank account. You know, I float a check here and there. I didn't really know it's possible anymore where they can be 24 hours. You know what I mean? They can be where it used to be 3 days, 4 days, sometimes a week to get a check cashed. Now it's like 24 hours, these e-checks. So I'm like, how do you kite a check nowadays? But I didn't ask. You know what I mean? I didn't ask her what she did.
Right.
The morning that Alan got shot, he had told her to move. He had told her that he was going to the bank. He was going to sort it out. He says, I'm not going to leave you penniless, Miriam. These were her exact words. I'm not going to leave you penniless. I'm going to get you a house to live in. I'm going to get you a place to live as soon as you can. I want you on your feet. He says, I don't ever want to see you again. And my lawyer will be in touch. And that's the last thing he said. You know, and it really made her mad. Also, this is one thing I'm confused about. Her dogs weren't there when Alan got shot. Her dogs, she had $165 in her pocket. She took $140 of it to get her dogs out of wherever they were at. So I don't, she told me.
That's what she told you, that the dogs weren't there?
Yeah.
As I recall, the dogs were there.
After she came back.
Yeah.
after she went into town, wherever she picked those dogs up at.
She never said anything to us about
No,
picking up
and
dogs.
she told me she never told you that. She said, because she said I had $165. They wanted more. I told them I have $140 to my name to get my dogs out. And she said, and they let me pay $140. I said, didn't the police think that was suspicious? And she said, they don't know. She said, nobody knows this.
Why would she not have told us that?
I don't know. That's what I don't know if it was the dog pound, the groomers. I don't know what it was, but
Right.
she only had the little bit of money. That's why when Alan's funeral, all of that, she kept telling everybody, I have no money, I have no money, I have no money. Because she had taken her last $140 to get those dogs out of wherever they were at.
Okay.
And I really don't, I'm going to say the dog pound, but I really don't know for sure that's where it was at.
Right.
After I thought about it, because it didn't make sense to me at the time. And you know, by now she's told me so many lies. I mean, especially after her trial, she started saying she was a prostitute during a certain time, that Kerry was one of her, the guy that ran for president, was one of her clients, and he, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. After a while, people tell you that kind of stuff, you just tune them out.
Yeah.
You don't even want to
Yeah.
listen anymore.
So did you talk to
So-
her pretty much every day?
Oh,
while
every
she was
day.
back there?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you already back there when she came in, or
No, she was already back
she was
there.
there first? And then
We
you-
weren't allowed out together when we first got out in red, you know,
Uh-huh.
because you're on sanctions. I was on sanctions for 75 days. So by the time I got out, April, I'm going to say 15th, around that area, that time, she was already out. She already had TV privileges and she was already out. And by the time I got out, April 15th, then we were allowed out 1 hour a day together from 2 to 3. And we could eat meals together. At first we didn't talk much, you know, because I mean, she was mean, you know what I mean? She was really mean.
In what way?
Well, like one time I was reading the newspaper and I said, this makes me mad. This woman says in here that it's the police's job to watch her daughter. It's the one that got in the rollover accident when she got stopped and she'd been
Oh,
drinking.
right.
And the lady said, if I can't watch my daughter, it's the police's job to watch my daughter. You know, I said, it's not the police's job to watch her daughter. I said, if that policeman had given that girl a ticket, that policeman just ruined my daughter's life. She's in college. And I said, so either way, that policeman couldn't win, right? Mm-hmm. She got so mad. She said, why don't you just F off like that? And I said, what are you talking about, you know? And then she goes, and then she starts talking about Amy. I said, I'm not talking about Amy. I said, that's a totally different circumstance what happened to Amy. I don't even know what happened to Amy. I said, I'm talking about this article in the newspaper, you know. And then one time she wanted me to read one of her books. She wrote a bunch of books while she was back there, right? I'm sick of reading her books, so I just gave it back to her. You know, I said, you know what? I don't want to spill something on this. I don't want to ruin all your hard work. I'm not going to read it, Miriam. I said, I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to read it. So we go outside to walk, and she got really mean. I mean, really mean. And I kept pushing the button to come in. The guard wasn't at their station. So that made me mad, so I'd never go out and walk with her again. She just... I don't know how to put it, but it's like a switch flips, you know what I mean? I know you've been around people like that a lot of times. I know back there's a lot of people like that. But she gets like evil, you know what I mean? She gets like really evil, like underhanded, mean evil. I mean, she never touched me or hit me or not, you know, nothing like that. But just she says things that she thinks like she's smarter than everybody else. You know what I mean? She thinks you're not smart enough to know what she just said, you know, that it was an insult. Yeah, I'm smart enough to know, but I'm not going to let you insult me either. You know what I mean? One morning we get up, she said, and these are stupid things, don't mean to waste your time, but you are going to clean this morning, she says. I said, no, I'm not, because I got up really tired and that my favorite guard was on that doesn't make us clean, you know. So I was like, I'm so glad she's working. She goes, no, you're coming out to clean this morning. I said, no, I'm not, like that. And so when the guard came back, she tells the guard, I think you need to make us clean from now on. The guard says, no, it's your choice if you're going to clean or not. She says, you have a choice, like that. I mean, what is the big deal? Wipe off the table, scrub the shower, you know what I mean? What is the big deal? I do it every day if I don't want to do it one day.
Right.
And I tell her, stay in the cell tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, you know what I mean? But no, she has to be the boss. And one of her other things that she said to me, I am the alpha female always. Wherever I go, I'm always the alpha female. I said, what are we, a pack of wolves, you know? I said, what do you mean alpha female? She said, I guarantee you your periods will follow mine. She said, whenever I have a period, you'll have a period. I said, if that happens, I said, expect the coming of Christ because I don't have periods. I had a hysterectomy.
Okay.
You know, so I'm like, how stupid. kid, you know?
Yeah.
Just things like she has to let people know she's in control. A little girl, Amanda Eddy, comes back there. She's 23 years old, right? Miriam tells her, how old are you? Amanda says 23. She says, gosh, you look like you're 36. She goes, I'm in my 50s and I look better than you. People think I'm in my 20s. Amanda and I are looking at her like, are you serious?
Yeah.
I got the paper out. I said, I've never seen a 20-year-old look like that. You know, I'm like,
Right.
oh my gosh. Just things like that. But I don't want to get back on that, you know.
No, it's so it sounded like she had kind of almost like a split personality type thing. So sometimes
I would definitely
if I'm
say
correct,
that.
sometimes she would be nice and pleasant, and then other times she would be kind of devious and she would insult you and things like that.
And insult, not just like you have a bad day and say something mean. You know, this is, I mean, downright disgusting. You know what I
Can
mean?
you think of any other examples of that?
Well, like there's this one guard that's real tall and real big, and she calls her the Michelin Man. Okay, she tells me, she goes, Marilynne, she says, you're about that size. She goes, that's about the size I would say you are. And she says, and this is going to go into a little bit of my case, so I won't go too far into it. But she said, if Shane did have an affair with a guard, it was probably that one, because that one reminds him the most of you. It really hurt my feelings, you know, and not being mean to that guard. It was just really hurt my feelings that she calls her the Michelin Man and then says something like that.
Right.
You know, that's the one he would have picked, you know.
Okay.
So just those are the kind of things, you know. She talks about the nurses, how they're all pretty heavy, you know, and she thinks she has this gorgeous figure. She really does. She really thinks she's a lot prettier than she is, you know. I don't know if you know her very good or anything, but
Fairly well.
okay, she really does think that when she was on trial, she told me that Mr. Tuttle has never come across someone like her. In the whole time of his history, he's never met someone like her. You know that.
Right. She, in what way? Did she say?
She's way smarter than anybody that he's ever come across. That she could hold her emotions better than anybody could. That she never admits she lies, though. I mean, even when I caught her in a flat out lie and told her that's a lie, you know, I flat out said that's a lie. She will not admit she's lying. You know.
Right.
So, but that she can just outsmart anybody. You know, Mr. Tuttle just. He had met his match or more with her, you know, and I just kind of laughed about that because he has a lot of experience, you know.
And so what did she say after the guilty verdict, the day that she was
That was
convicted?
scary. That was very scary. She had no emotion. She had no remorse. She had nothing, no feelings whatsoever. You know what I mean? I cried harder than she did. I mean, I couldn't even eat my food. I pushed it away. Couldn't even eat my food. She ate like normal, you know, and the guard came back there. Miss Anderson said, you know, you two, this roles are reversed here. She said, Miss Helmick, I have to tell you, your actions are scaring me, you know? And Miriam goes, why? She goes, I'll never have to worry about another meal the rest of my life. And we all just looked at her and I thought, okay, reality hasn't set in yet, you know, maybe that's how you act. I didn't think so, but maybe that's how you act, okay? Reality hasn't hit her yet. Tomorrow she'll be upset.
Yeah.
Tomorrow she was even in a better mood than she was the day before. The next day she's even in a better mood, you know, and I'm like, whoa. So I started telling her, maybe you have a dissociative disorder, because that's when she really started with the lies, blatant lies. And I would ask her, how did you get in the escort business? Knowing she was lying, right? I said, how did you get in the I don't remember. Oh, wait a minute. And she's all proud of herself because she thought of an answer. And it's blatant, it's obvious. I looked it up in the phone book, and you can tell this whole thing. This is how she's doing it too. That's how I did it, you know, and it's like, could you make it more of a lie? That kind of stuff. That was kind of odd to me.
Did she ever say anything about the outcome of, I mean, she said, I'll never have to worry about another meal. So it was just like she just accepted that she's spending the rest of her life in prison, or is
Oh, no. She thinks she's coming back for an appeal.
Okay.
She has 3, and this is why I am here, and I'll be honest with you. She has 3 ways that she's coming back for an appeal. The first one is they're going to get all the stuff from Delta thrown out, and they're going to get all that kind of stuff because that shouldn't, from Florida thrown out, and that should have never been tried here. If that doesn't work, she has a whole nother story that she's going to tell. She told it to her lawyer, and her lawyer told her that if you don't use it in this trial, and I'm not trying to get Steve in trouble, but if you don't use it in this trial, you can bring it up that I didn't do my job, and you can get an appeal based on this alone. And this, she did blatantly tell me this is a lie, and I will stand up there and say she said this is a lie, because this is such a ridiculous story. Alan was in trouble with the mob in Vegas, that he was in big gambling debt in Vegas, okay? And the mob, $25,000. I said, they wouldn't have killed him over $25,000, Miriam. I said, besides, this was no mob hit. You know, I said, a mob doesn't come and shoot you. I said, he would have been face down with a bullet in the back of his head, but he wouldn't have been on his back. You know what I mean? I said, no, this was no mob hit. I said, nobody's going to buy this was a mob hit, you know? She said that, no, the mob didn't do this. They sent an amateur to do it because he's in debt. Yeah, it's always something, right? But the reason that he got killed was they went, her and him, drove to Utah and picked up $750,000. Imagine that. Somebody just hands Alan and her $750,000. He takes it home. He decides that morning that he's going to give it back to them, that he doesn't want to do the business deal after all. That's why they killed him.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a stupid story.
That's what she told you that she had discussed with her attorney as far as a story if it came up to an appeal. Okay.
So it's a 35B or something like that she has to file. And Steve told her, I will send you the paperwork to file for that, you know.
Okay.
So that's her second appeal if she doesn't, you know, get back. I know there was 3 of them, but that might have been the third. There might have been one in between those.
Okay.
But there was 3 things that she was going to appeal. You know, maybe it was the Delta, maybe it was the Florida, and then it was the story about the mob. I mean, that, if she got an appeal on that, I would be sick about it, you know what I mean? Because the whole thing sounds so to me.
Right.
The guy that they stopped in a white truck by her house, and he had ID, and his cell phones were tossed in the yard, you know. Why do you toss cell phones, Marilynne? Because you don't want to be traced, you know. And she's totally trying to blame this guy for Alan's death. She tried to blame Keith for Alan's death with me at first, and she tried to blame Josh, the brother-in-law, you know, for Alan's death.
Right.
All of that she tried to blame. The truck guy was the very last guy she tried to blame. You know what I mean?
She said it was a guy in a white truck?
Yeah, she said it was a guy in a white truck that had been stopped by the police, had showed his Las Vegas ID. He was from Las Vegas. He dumped his cell phone in their yard. You know, they found the cell phone in their yard.
Mm-hmm.
I never read anything like that in the
Right.
newspaper, if that's any of that's true. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just... Those are things that she said they didn't use in trial that they could have used to help her. Because she said her exact words. The police had the guy that did it and they let him go. But yet subconsciously she keeps telling me she did it. You know what I mean? Subconsciously she tells me Alan kicked me out. I knew where the gun was at. I lied on the stand about the poisoning. You know, I don't think the morning that she shot him was planned. I don't think that's how she planned to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But when he was going to kick her out, she told me the biggest fear in her whole entire life is to be left without a meal. To be, you know, on the street, left without a meal. I said, Alan told you, Miriam, I won't leave you penniless. I won't leave you homeless. I said, I don't understand why he had to die, you know? I don't understand.
What did she say to that?
Nothing. I mean, it just...
Mm-hmm. So she...
I pretty much told her, I know you did it, you know what I mean?
But she never came out and said that
Mm-mm.
she killed him because he was going to kick her out or he was going to leave her penniless or anything like that.
And I
But
tried to get her to say it, I really did.
But
no.
she did say that morning he was angry with her
Mm-hmm.
because he found out that she'd been kiting checks.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't say anything about him. Did she say when he found out that she'd been kiting checks?
I assumed the day before because they had gotten into a huge fight the day before. Didn't really talk the whole night. And the next morning is when he got up and told her, you're going to have to leave. You're going to have to move. But yet it doesn't make sense to me. Where were the dogs? Why did she have to go get the dogs if he only found out the day before? And why would he take the dogs to the pound? So that is still a mystery. I don't know if you're ever going to look it up or anything, but...
Where did she tell you that she went after speaking to Alan in the morning and he told her you're going to have to move and all of this stuff?
Only a few places. She told me she went and got her dogs. She told me that she went and bought 3 shirts, I think it was from Walmart, for her to feed the horses.
Mm-hmm.
She told me that she went to the Chinese restaurant and City Market, so 4 places.
Did she tell you that she was going to meet him for lunch or she was supposed to meet him for lunch?
Yeah.
And that she left messages for him and things like that?
She did say that.
Okay.
She also told me that she was checking his voicemail with him he was with her and they used her phone because his phone didn't have a very good speaker on it.
She told me that was something they did all the time, you mean?
Which that didn't make sense because he has money. If his phone, he can't hear on it, why wouldn't he go get a new phone? You can get one for $20, even if you're broke, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that didn't make sense, but I didn't argue with her on stuff like
Right.
that.
And I think you might have told me this, but when she was talking about the gun in the sock drawer, how did that conversation come about, or how did that
She
come
went to
up?
put socks away and she felt the gun in the drawer and she told him that she's paranoid ever since Jack died of guns and she doesn't like him in the house and she doesn't like him in her room, in her bedroom, so he needed to move that gun. That's exactly what
Did she say
said.
when it was that the gun was in the sock drawer? Okay. Did she say?
She did say he never moved it.
She said he never moved it out of the sock drawer?
She did say that. She said he never did move it. And that made her mad that he didn't have enough compassion for her feelings, that he wouldn't automatically move that gun. From everything I've heard of Alan, he treated her so good. I can't imagine he would just disregard that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't know Alan, so I can't say that.
Sure.
But from what she said about him, he took her on trips. He overlooked her past, he bought her a dance studio, bought her horses, got her riding lessons to ride those horses. I mean, what a dream husband, you know what I mean? And I don't know.
Did you ever say anything negative about him? I know you said that she said he was mad at her that morning
A few
he died.
things, that he was very controlling. She said he was very controlling, which being around her, I find that hard to believe, but okay. She also said, I forgot to tell you about this part, he gave her 10 lots of a business deal he was doing. This is really why he died. This is why she started planning his murder. He gave her 10 lots of this business deal of a development property that he was doing. He told her, "You're set for life, Miriam. When we get this development deal done," he said, 10 lots. He said, "The very least you're going to get from this is $200,000. With that, we will invest that money and you'll be set for life." All of a sudden, he got really mad at her and he withdrew that. He told her, "No, never mind. I'm not giving you that." She argued with him and said, "We had a deal. You told me if I was with you for 5 years, you would give me those 10 lots. Those 10 lots are mine." That's when she started plotting the poison, how to kill him without killing, without.
She didn't actually tell you that though.
No, but she did tell me it made her mad, and that's when she started looking up the poisons and things like that. But she said it was always because of the medications he was on.
Right.
But she did tell me that made her really mad, and she used those exact words. "He owed me those." She said, we had a deal. If I was with him for 5 years, I got that property. And so I'm like, is that when you started to, I didn't say that. Until her trial, I did not really believe she did this. I even told her, I remember my exact words. I said, "I know you didn't blow your husband up or try to blow him up." I said, "Women don't do stuff like that." I said, "Women stab, poison, they kill in other ways. Women aren't violent like that." I said, "Why aren't they looking at a man like Josh?" And that was my biggest suspect in all of it, was because he had way more to gain than Miriam did. You know what I mean? His wife got all the money if he died, and I didn't know Miriam had got any money until I forgot this part too. She told me that her and Alan sat down one day because she was worried about if he died, because he had heart problems, she wouldn't be taken care of, because of the prenup. And he says, "Oh no, Miriam," he says, "you're taken care of." He says, "There's insurance money." He says, "There's also a thing in Colorado called the homestead law." And he says, you were covered by the homestead law. He said, "This house is yours." So she knew if he died exactly what she was entitled to.
She told you that?
Yes.
That Alan had told her if he died, the house was hers?
Yes.
Did she give you an idea when that was?
After he had his EKG, so it was probably about 6 months before he died.
Okay. Did she say anything about him being sick in the months before his death? What did she say about that?
She just said that, she was surprised that she didn't notice how sick he was, because in pictures of him, like in their wedding, and then towards the end, after he died, she looked at him and she said, "I can't believe I didn't notice he was that sick," because his face was all drawn in like drugs or something, and his face was all drawn in. He didn't have good coloring about him. And she said, "I didn't even notice." She said, him and I had a deal, and it was always like, she was bartering with him about things, because she said him and I had a deal. He had to take naps in the afternoon. That was a requirement. He had to take naps. And I thought, I have never been married to a man I could say, you are going to take a nap.
Like a child.
I've
Right.
never had that, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know how to act. You know?
And so she was angry about him reneging on this deal with the property.
Yes.
And then you said they also had a deal that he was giving her $3,000 a month from the title company.
That was first, yep.
That was first.
Mhm.
And she said that made her angry too.
Mhm.
And then she told you that the check that he got from that sale, the $125,000 check, was in her purse.
Yes, she told me that.
Okay. Did he hand it to her after the deal, or did she say?
She did not say about
She just
that.
said the check was in her purse.
She said, I had the check. So that I always thought, well, how are you going to cash it if you killed him?
Mhm.
You know, but these are things I really did not ask her because I did not believe she did that, the blowing him up.
And she never.
Only towards the end, you know, and after she was convicted, she kind of more leaned, but she never actually, I'll be honest, she never came out and said, I did this murder.
Right.
They
Right.
convicted a guilty person.
Yeah.
I told her, in fact, I said, you know, Miriam, they're going to lock you away for the rest of your life. You're going to be in prison, locked away the rest of your life. I said, in here, you don't have to be locked away. You don't have to be in prison. I said, but you have to come clean with why you did what you did. I said, even if you don't admit it to another person on this planet, you have to admit it to yourself. Even if it's for a vicious, cruel reason that you did it, even if you snapped, whatever your reason is that you killed him, you need to come clean with yourself and say, this is why I did it, this is what I did, and this is why I did it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I told her that. I said, you have to come clean with yourself. I don't think she's the type that ever will. You know, that's hard for me to understand about people. But
Yeah. Was this after the conviction?
yes.
And
this
what
was.
did she say anything to that, or
She said, I'll never admit it. That is her exact words, I'll never admit it.
did she ever tell you I didn't do it?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, all the time she said she didn't do it. In fact, if I said something about, didn't you get mad when he did that? Didn't you get mad when he said that? Didn't you get mad? Well, not enough to kill him over everything. I don't care. It was one time she came home from the dance studio, was on the tractor, and she was mad. Oh, God, she was mad at him. I said, gosh, because you could see it in her face. She was mad, and I said, you look like you're pretty mad. And she said, not enough to kill him. I mean, it was over anything I said.
Really?
It was,
Not enough to kill him.
yeah, over everything that I said.
Okay.
There was one more thing I was going to tell you, but I guess.
Well, and I was going to tell you whenever we're done here, I'll go ahead and give you a card.
Okay.
I
I
may
should have wrote it all down for you.
Oh, no,
I
that's
should've.
all right. If you happen to think of things, I don't know how much longer you're going to be here.
February 22nd at least.
Okay. If you think of other things, if you want to just jot them down,
Okay.
and then we can sit back down again later
Okay.
if you're agreeable to that.
All right.
And
I know I was going to tell you why the kids, she went to the kids about the property. She went to them after Alan died, and she told them about this land deal, and she told them that he had given her 10 of those lots. And the oldest, Portia, told her, Miriam, anything that gets you money, you're not getting. She said, I'll give up that $20,000 before I will develop that property and give you any of it. She said, you're not getting a dime from his estate. She said, I will fight you on everything.
she said this is what Portia told her after
Yes.
Alan died.
Yeah, she said Portia told her that I'll fight you on everything. She told me also the reason that she left for Florida was the guy that killed Alan threatened her and her kid, and that's why she had to get out of town.
Did she say where this threat took place or any details about the threat?
After she took Chris to the airport,
Uh-huh.
she dropped him off. She was coming home, and the guy pulled her over, and he knew that Chris had just been in Miriam's car.
This was in Grand Junction?
Yes. Well, it was, I guess, wherever it was on her way from the airport to Whitewater.
Okay.
So he pulled her over. No, it was towards the property, so it had been in Whitewater.
Okay.
He pulled her over and said that I'll kill you and your kid if you tell anything about me killing Alan. So that's why she couldn't talk about the Vegas hit. That's why she couldn't talk, because she had to protect Chris. And I'll tell you right now, the impression I got from her, she'd throw Chris under the bus if it meant her getting out of prison. You know what I mean? And that is the God's honest truth. When she started talking about Alan tried to kill her and tried to blame all of it, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I said, he's the victim in all this and you're gonna try to make you the victim? I said, everyone's gonna hate you, you do that. You know what I mean? But she still tried.
So this person that pulled her over, did she say anything about who this was or
The guy in the white truck.
Oh, it was the guy in the white truck?
Yeah, that was the guy. But see, when I first got here, when we first started talking, there was no guy in the white truck. There was nothing about any of that until it was in her discovery, until she read it in her discovery that this guy got pulled over and he acted suspicious or something like that. And then all of a sudden that was her story.
Oh, I see.
All of a sudden then that guy in the white truck was the guy that killed Alan. You know what I mean?
Was that when the story about the mob hit came up, or was that later?
Mm-hmm. It was later. I mean, all this wasn't at first, you know what I
Okay.
mean? This was all later during the mob hit. Was like something she dreamt up, you know what I mean? It was so incredibly stupid. It was like
Yeah.
if you had got up on the stand, you would have made yourself, if it possible, look worse than what you did. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
So
she said that was the reason that she had to leave. Did she say anything about the greeting card that she admitted to and that she left?
yeah, she said, okay, it was a stupid thing to do, Marilynne. She says, but you would have done the same thing. I said, no, I wouldn't have, Miriam. I said, call me stupid. I said, but I still believe in the police. I said, if I was that scared and somebody was on my property, my husband was just murdered in my house. I said, do you think I would have went to the store, bought a greeting card to get the police's attention? I said, the phone is so much quicker, you know? I said, I would have picked up the phone, and if they had refused to come to my house, who's your supervisor? You know, I would have been on that phone every 10 minutes until they said, get someone out there to get this crazy lady from calling us.
Yeah.
I said, you know what, I wouldn't have even thought to go buy a greeting card.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I'll admit, we all do stupid things. I did some stupid things in my life, in my case, you know what I mean? Did some stupid things. But to go buy a greeting card to get the police's attention, that to me is sick. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's beyond,
And
that's
the
telling
reason.
you too, I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Subconsciously, in my opinion, especially what the greeting card said.
Mhm.
You know, Einstein quoted, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's the reason of it, or definition of insanity. That tells you I've done this before. And this is one thing I do want to bring up. And this is no facts, a factual basis, but I want to tell you something that bothers me. 4 people died because of Amy's death. You know what I mean? And she told me that it's easier to hire a killer than you think it is. She said, and so when she stole money from her husband's account, close to $100,000 from Jack's account, his personal account. When it came to burying him, there was like $3,000 left in that account. She found out that she's not the beneficiary on that account, but she also found out Florida law, you can use that money to bury somebody before the person that's the beneficiary gets the money.
Mhm.
Chris was the beneficiary on that money. She got $300,000 in insurance from Jack's account, the estate, plus the house, plus all the other money that they had together in other accounts. She took that $3,000 from her son to bury her husband because, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
That's greed, you know what I mean? She also did admit to stealing from her own parents. I wonder, did she really hire somebody to kill these people that were connected to Amy? Because she told me 2 of them died of gunshot wounds, that they killed themselves. One of them died of a heroin drug overdose. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That seems odd to me that 4 people that you and her husband shot himself. So
Right.
4 people killed themselves over one person's death. Is that normal? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not asking you that. To me, no.
Yeah,
that's
sure,
not
that's what you're
normal,
thinking.
You know?
Yeah.
So to me, did she hire somebody? Is that what she was doing with the $80,000 that she stole from her parents, the $100,000 that she stole from Jack, all the money that she stole from Alan? But it doesn't make sense to me hiring a killer and then kill him the way that they killed him. It was sloppy. You know
Yeah,
what I
right.
mean? So no, she killed him. You know what I mean? I know she killed him.
Yeah.
But
And what else? What did she tell you about Jack's death?
she told me that he killed himself. She did tell me that he killed himself, but there was so much that wasn't right about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So much that wasn't right. And she did almost slip up once. I have to tell you, she almost slipped up once and said, if Chris is questioned about it, she will be convicted of Jack's death.
Really?
She said those exact words. She said, if Chris is ever questioned about it, I will be convicted of Jack's death. I said, what could Chris say that would convict you? She wouldn't go any further. She never, but she did say that much. You know what I mean? So Chris knows something that he hasn't said.
Right.
You know, and probably that's why he won't talk to her. He probably isn't ever going to turn her in for it, but he probably
Yeah.
He won't talk.
Was there any communication, or did she say if she had communicated with Chris at all since she was arrested?
She did not get one letter except from NBC the whole year she was here. Not from family, friends, nobody except NBC wanting her story. You know what I mean?
Was she going to do an interview with NBC, did she say?
Afterwards, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But she thought she was going to walk. I'll tell you right now, she thought she was going to walk from this. You know, she told me there was no way they could convict her, that there was no evidence, there was no way they could convict her. I had to believe what she was saying because I didn't know. And it's hard to realize I'm from a kind of a fantasy world, never been around people in trouble, crime, all that stuff, drugs, you know. So when I'm sitting across from somebody, it's on TV, but that's TV. Even real true crime stories are on TV, you know what I'm saying? So sitting across from somebody, eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know, walking in the yard, you do not think that person is a killer.
Yeah.
And you don't want to think that person is a killer. One time, something that she did, she was showing me self-defense. She did this thing on my arm. She like twisted real quick and went like this, and I didn't move. You know, I just stood there, and her eyes get real big, and she's all shocked, and she goes, "That should have dropped you to your knees." She goes, "I could drop Alan to his knees by doing that." And she told me once Alan was too wimpy to defend himself, that she could take a gun from Alan. If Alan had ever pulled a gun on her, she could take a gun from Alan. But you have to know she lives in a fantasy world too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's badder than everybody. She's smarter than everybody. She's, you know, so I don't know if she knew what she was talking about that.
Yeah.
But she told me that should have dropped me to my knees. And I said, maybe had you told me it was supposed to, it might have, because it did hurt. I'm not going to lie. It did hurt, you know?
But not enough to drop you to your knees. Right. Okay. So what she told, the impression that I'm getting is when she told you about leaving the morning that Alan died, that they had an or he told her basically, you're going to have to leave because of her kiting checks, and so he was aware that he was broke. Did she ever tell you that?
He was not aware yet. He hoped and prayed that it was the bank's error, because that's what she told him. That was the bank's error.
Okay.
So she wanted to go to the bank with him and straighten it out, and he told her no. He told her no, and he never told her no before. That was her exact words. She said, he never told me no. He was acting like an asshole. She said, he never told me no. If I told him I wanted to go, I was more than welcome to go. If I wanted to sit in on a board meeting, I could sit on a board meeting. It bothered her that he told her no.
So he told her that morning he was going to the bank to try to clear things up.
Yeah, and he hoped and prayed that it really was a bank error.
How did he know about the money issues?
She never really said. She never told me how he knew, but she told me in the end he knew that she had taken money from him. She did say that, and she did admit, I took money from him.
Yeah.
You know,
but she said it was going to Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that doesn't make sense to me, you know, because like I said, if she had a gambling problem, but who knows, she might have when they went gambling. Maybe she gambled more than he knew. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't. You don't know a person until you live with them practically, you know. But
so she told you that he was being a asshole. Said, I'm going to the bank. She wanted to go with him. He said, no, you're not going. And did she say what happened after that?
That's when he told her, he says, in fact, I want you to get your things, Miriam. I want you to be ready to move when I get back. And she says, I'm not going to leave you penniless. He says, I'm not going to leave you homeless, or, you know, I'm going to get you a home. I'm going to find you somewhere to live. I'm going to give you money, but I don't ever want to see you again. And I don't know if it was like if you've stolen money. I don't know what this was all about. I assume it was if you did this, if you took my money, you know. And he says, I won't ever be in touch with you again. He says, my lawyers will be in touch. And those were her, I don't know if that was her exact words, but I mean, that was,
just
yeah, definitely, you know.
And so that's when she left and went to get her dogs and, okay.
But I think she killed him and then went and got her dogs, you know what I mean?
But her story was she left.
Right.
And came back and found him dead.
Right. And she said when the dogs came in with her, that they ran straight to Alan, where Alan was at, and they started licking up the blood where Alan was at. So she had to get them away from Alan, you know? She told me she did not know. This was a weird thing too. I thought this is creepy. She came in, she saw him laying there. She knew he was dead instantly. How do you know someone's dead? Okay, but anyway, she knew he was dead. She didn't call 911. She sat on the floor next to him. I said, what? What? You know, I said, you're going to tell people you did that? No. She said, I'm not going to tell people I did that. But she said she sat there because she knew he was dead. I said, how do you know someone's dead? You just know, Marilynne. You just know they're dead, you know? So, but she sat there probably a good half hour or more. She didn't know how long, but it was a long time before she picked up the call to 911. I think she sat there and practiced her 911 call. Personally, I don't know, but I don't care who you found dead, even someone you hate, you wouldn't just sit down next to him or step over him, you know what I mean? Or let your dogs, gross, you know?
She say anything about holding his hand or anything like that when he was laying there?
She just
When did
sat
she
down
tell-
next to him.
Okay. When did she tell you that that's what she did? That she said
Right away. She actually told me that part right away, like when
Did
we first met and we were talking, you know, because she had grieved for Jack, you know, she had found Jack, you know, he shot himself next to, she didn't admit that part at first either, but she said, I've grieved for a husband before. I had to call 911. She didn't tell me he got shot, nothing like that. I had to call 911 and she said, they come in and they take him and you don't even get to say goodbye. So she said, I sat there and said goodbye to Alan this time. I spent time with him and said goodbye to him this time.
Right.
And that was her reason why she sat there.
Did she say, you told me earlier that they had an argument the day before he died.
Mhm.
Did she say what that was about?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
She said they rarely fought. She said that, you know, her and Alan have this perfect, wonderful fairy tale relationship. He used to tell people that she was his soulmate, which I kind of believe that because, you know, a lot of his friends didn't like her. And when they would tell him that they don't like her, he would stop hanging out with those people. You know what I mean? He made it where it was just him and Miriam all the time.
Yeah.
Or she did. I don't know who did what there, you know, but I mean, he like shunned people that didn't like her, you know what I mean? And if somebody treated her bad, he didn't put up with that from them. So I have to, and her side, you know,
Yeah.
I have to say, I think he really did love her, you know what I mean? Man, that guy really, I don't know why he would deserve what he got because in all respect, he really did love her, even by her account.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why I found it hard to believe that you could kill someone like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Personally, and this is going a little bit into my case, but my husband tried to kill me. I know a little bit how that feels. I know a little bit what Alan felt when he woke up and realized the person that he sleeps next to every day, he loves and he's put his heart into, is trying to kill him. I know a little how Alan felt about that, you know, but basically this is more honestly for the people that are left behind. I want them to know their dad did know what was going on. Their dad in the end figured out that who she was and he was going to leave her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That he did give her property that he reneged on. I don't know if they need, you'll know what to tell them better than I do. But you know what, if they have questions, did my dad know? Yeah, he knew. He knew what was going on.
But exactly how long before he died that he knew, I guess we can't be sure of that as well. Right?
Maybe a couple days.
But the day before is what she told you, or the day of is when she said that's when he told her he was going to the bank and that she needed to. Did she say was that the first time he told her that she needed to leave, was the day he died?
That's the only time that she ever admitted he had told her to leave, yeah. Because before that, she insisted they had the perfect marriage. She really did. If I needed money, Marilynne, Alan got it for me. You know, and then later, I had an ATM card that he took away. Why? You know, oh, because I was taking money and he didn't like that, you know. Oh, okay. Well, I kind of still understood it a little bit, you know. I still didn't judge her by that kind of stuff because maybe one time she took $200 and he told her to take 20. You know, I don't know. But I didn't really, to me, she didn't need money. She lived in a beautiful home with her husband who paid for everything. She had a car to drive. She had gas in the car if she needed it, groceries. She didn't need money, you know what I mean? So to me, I don't understand why she would steal money, you know?
Yeah.
And if it was for Chris, I forgot, this is something she said too. The little bit of money that I gave Chris, she said, is the least Alan could give him. Alan didn't give him the money, she did. But the least that Alan could do for him, he was giving her his kids money all the time. That's what she said. Every time he turned around, he was giving his kids money. So
she felt like he needed to be giving Chris money.
Yes. Too. Also, when she said about the checks, about stealing the money and the checks that she had forged, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to tell the jury what happened. The jury's going to take my side because they're going to know that guy owed me that money. That was a direct quote.
Yeah.
That guy owed me that money.
So she told you she was going to testify that yes, she did forged the checks, but he owed her the money because of these things he promised her.
Well, not only that, but just because she worked in the dance studio, you know, didn't draw a salary. This made her really mad. I said, I find that hard to believe. That's just something I say. I find that hard to believe. Not because I'm calling you a liar. It's a bad habit. I mean, it insults people, and I don't mean to. It's just, wow, that's hard to believe. And it's rude. It's a rude thing to say. You know what I mean? Try to break myself of it. Well, oh my God, it made her so mad. She goes, that's awfully judgmental of you, and starts yelling at me about this, and I said, whoa, what did I say? I didn't even realize what I had just said, She goes, you just called me a liar. I said, when you said it's hard to believe. So then that's what made me realize I say it. So anyways, I said, no, that's not what I was saying. I said, I find it hard to believe that anybody would work at a steady job every single day, 5 days a week, and not draw a salary. That I find that hard to believe. Well, come to find out, Alan was not giving her a salary because they were going to pay her parents back the money that she had stole from them.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it was all about. You know what I mean? I don't know how true any of that is. I really
But she did tell you that she took money from her parents?
She flat out admitted that one, which is one of the few crimes she did flat out admit. She said, I took that money, I stole it from them, But I told her I had done a similar thing to my parents when I had a gambling problem. So I think it made her feel less intimidated, It made her feel less like she's a bad person for what she did, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm a horrible person for what I did. I never tried to set them on fire, though. And she told me, no, she didn't admit that. She did tell me that her brother, the police officer, called her and told her that she didn't leave town, he was going to kill her. At that, she said, and then their house started on fire while I'm on my way out of town. While I'm on my way out of town, come on,
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. You mentioned that she had said something about Alan had tried to kill her.
Yeah,
What
the
did she
Delta thing. That Alan had actually tried to blow her up in that car.
Oh, that was what she said happened, was Alan was trying to kill her.
Yeah, because he needed the insurance money on that car.
Even though he was sitting in the car when it was...
That's what I told her. I said, he's the victim in this.
Yeah.
I said, he's the one sitting in the car. He's the one finds it smoldering. I said, how are you going to say he tried to kill you? And she even had tears, was even crying. Marilynne, nobody understands. He was the one trying to kill me. I couldn't even shed it. I couldn't even believe I was hearing what I was hearing. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Yeah. Did she ever say anything to you about trying to get life insurance policy on him or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. She said she never tried for $1 million. She did try for $250,000. No, I think she tried for a little bit more because she was going to have to pay some guy $250,000. Some business partner or something. She had to have that. So she did try to get a little bit more for herself. The highest they would go, I believe she said 220 or 240, 220, 240,000 is the highest they would go. So she took out the maximum. She did say that she never asked for $1 million policy.
Okay. Did she try to get that policy without Alan knowing about it?
Mm-hmm.
Did she say why? She didn't want Alan to know about it?
Because he had heart problems. She didn't want him to worry. The whole thing's stupid, but she had heart problems. She didn't want him to have to worry. Plus, Marilynne, if he had to take a test, he would never pass. He couldn't get that much insurance because he had that EKG done, and he didn't have good enough health to get that much insurance. So that's why she left Alan out of it. It's not because she was trying to do something behind his back, but because he couldn't pass the physical.
Okay. All right. Anything else you could think about? I mean, you've had obviously a lot of conversations with her.
A lot. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot you don't want to hear. But
well, no, that's not true. I mean, anything you can remember is of interest, and we obviously don't know what type of an appeal might come about, or so this may all be very important.
I really do hope so, to be honest with you. I'll have to be honest. I never really believed in our prisons. My brother went to prison for 12 years, and I honestly thought it was for a crime he did not commit. And that broke my heart. God, it broke my heart, for someone that you love to go to prison. I have finally met somebody who belongs in prison. She is a danger I've met 2 people, my husband included, a danger to society. If she was out, she would kill again. This woman flat out killed somebody she loved, for one thing. One thing she did tell me, she said, I married Alan, and she said, I'll tell you the truth, Marilynne, I looked at him, I hated his sense of humor. She said, he had the stupidest sense of humor. One day I looked at him and said, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I looked at her and I thought, wow, that's a horrible thing to say about the man you just married. But anyways, this woman belongs in prison. You know what I mean? She'll get out, she will kill again. Money is more important to her than anything else in this whole entire world.
Did she say why she married Alan?
Money. She set her sights on Alan. I mean, I could tell you the whole gross story of it, but I don't think you want to hear it, you know. She set her sights on him. Barbara Watts is the one that set her up with Alan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if you know that
Yeah.
whole story, but
Yeah.
but when she met Alan, she knew she was moving in with him. She knew that night that she went out with him, she was moving in with him, and she pulled out all stops, and that was her way of
Really?
saying it, you know. She pulled out all stops, and that she got him to fall in love with her. She did the same thing to that guy in Florida, but it didn't work on him because she said he's bisexual, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
really?
But yeah, sex is a big thing to her. That's how she thinks that she gets men, you know. She thinks she pulls out all stops, and that's how she gets men.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't want to go into whole gross details that she told me.
So she
about
thinks
that.
that she has the sexual prowess
Oh,
to
yeah.
kind of bend their will to what she wants to do.
You want to hear something? This is
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Okay.
You're
Sure.
laugh. You're gonna think I have a weird sense of humor. She thinks when she gets acquitted, when she walks from this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
She's gonna go have an operation to have her whole face done, her body done, everything, you know? She has some money in a 401k, and she's gonna have all this work done to herself, and then she's gonna come back and she's gonna seduce Mr. Tuttle.
Oh.
He's not even gonna recognize. Try to sit there with a straight face when someone's telling you this. You're like, okay, and then you're trying not to laugh at
Oh
this
my
person,
God.
but then you go in your cell and you're laughing so hard you can't stand it because you're like, are you kidding me? Do you know how much work you have to do? He's never gonna recognize you. Oh my! And I mean,
When did
she
she
went
tell
through.
you that? Was that?
She's gonna get a video of it. She was dead serious. This is what's so funny. If it was a joke, it would be funny too. But this,
But she was serious.
Oh my God, she's dead serious. She's gonna get a video of it. And then she's gonna play it on the internet. She's gonna send it to his wife, and she's gonna. I mean, she had all these scenarios of what she's. Oh, I do need to tell you one more thing.
Okay.
But I mean, this whole thing that she's gonna seduce Mr. Tuttle. I don't know him. I don't even know what he looks like. But
Yeah.
I had to laugh. I was like, "Oh my God, Miriam, that's one of the funnier things you said."
Was
Okay,
this like
well,
after the trial, or was this during the
it's
trial?
during the trial? Well, no, actually, it was before the trial. She honestly thought she was gonna walk.
Yeah.
And this is something little she added to
Yeah.
it, you know, and the video was the best. So I was just like, come on, this guy's really gonna fall. And she does, she told me this, she said, any man in the room, she can pick him up with just her eyes. And she says, I have this look. And that kind of made me laugh too. I have this look. All I have to do is look at them and I can seduce them from across the room. I'm like, here's the mirror, you know, no. And this is something that is serious. I honestly believe she will, if she can, try to hire somebody to kill Jack's brother and Barbara Watts, because she actually, and I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for this, actually did come up to me and ask me, do you know anybody that would do that? And I'm like, no, I don't know hired killers. I don't know people that kill people, you know? She said, will you promise me that you'll try to find somebody to kill Barbara? No, I won't promise you that, you know?
Right.
But I think she will approach somebody in prison with that, you know?
Why did she want to kill? Well, I know that her and Barbara Watts have, history, but why Jack's brother?
Because of the last article that came out in the paper about him saying that she killed his brother, you know, and that Jack was a left-handed and he was right-handed. Miriam insists she was right-handed, you know. That he had no right to say all those things about her.
And she wanted somebody. She
even
was
told
going to
me
hire
where he
somebody to kill him.
lives. Yeah, she even told me where he lives.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Georgia, because it said in the paper he's from Florida. She said, no, he's not. And she told me city, town, state, whatever, you know, she told me it's Georgia. And I'm just like, wow, you're going to get in trouble for that. You just got convicted, but how much more can they give you than life, you know? But
so this
do
was
think
after
that's
she was
kinda
convicted
serious.
that she asked if you knew of anybody who would kill him.
I guess that was one of the important things that I should have told you first.
No, that's fine.
I kind of.
Do you know of anyone else she's talked to about that, or any other action she took?
Not yet, because it's just her and I back there. And I'll tell you, she does not trust people. She does not trust people. The reason she does trust me, and I'm kind of embarrassed to tell you this, I honestly believed until this case right here, if you kill somebody, you had a reason to kill that person. You know what I mean? Like that person molested your child, you know? I'm not saying you had the right reason, but you had a reason,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
something in your mind said, I have a reason to kill that person. You don't just go out and, I know there's the Green River Killer, I know Ted Bundy, I know
Right,
there are
serial
killers,
killers,
okay?
right.
I know that, but like I told you, not in my world, not people I know, you know what I mean? So this is in your face, straight up, you know, someone you talk to. I told her, I said, Miriam, I have to believe, knowing you, that if you killed Alan, you had a reason to kill Alan, you know? And she told me at that point, she goes, I like you, Marilynne, I really like you. You know, and that's what made her start trusting me. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm not going to sit here and say that I tried to gain her
To
trust,
get her
you know.
information.
I didn't try to like roll
Right.
on her to better my case. I didn't try to make myself look like a better person. Honestly, the only reason I am here is, and I would do this anonymously if I could. I don't even want to
Yeah.
really have my name in it.
Yeah.
But unless an appeal came up, yes, I would stand up against her.
Right.
I would say, you're not doing this to this family again. You have put them through enough, you know?
Right.
Especially when she was proud of herself about that $20,000. I was ashamed. I really was. I was ashamed to know that person and have trusted her and talked to her. I was like, man.
The $20,000 lien that she
Yeah.
said the IRS put on her.
Because she
mind.
laughed that they have to pay that.
Yeah.
You know, she laughed that and you can ask Sativa, I don't know her last name, Amanda Eddy, you can ask her, they were all there, you know. But yeah, she stood there and laughed in all of our faces that they have to pay that, you know.
Okay. I was going to ask you something. Oh, so anyway, what I'm hearing is that when you told her that if she killed Alan, she must have had a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like she never actually said, yeah, I did kill Alan, these are the reasons, but she had told you she had described a number of things that Alan had done that made her very angry. Is that accurate?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
That would be
And
very
then
accurate.
what do you think the final reason was that she killed Alan?
That he told her to move.
Okay.
You know, I told you the business deal is what made her lead up to poisoning him, and she hadn't actually done it yet, that I know of.
Yeah.
She hadn't actually poisoned him yet, but I'll tell you what, she researched the heck out of it.
Mhm.
She researched aphrodisiacs. She told me that. She researched how to poison him, not him personally, but how to poison somebody, you know, how to kill somebody, how to die by certain deaths.
But
you
she
know?
said it was because of her daughter,
Mhm.
and that she was concerned.
That's right. But then when I asked her why did she lie on the stand, she said nobody needs to know that.
Hmm.
So that tells
Right.
me, you know,
So if Alan was going to set her up and make sure she wasn't penniless, why would she have had to kill him?
that I don't know. I don't think she believed he would. But she also knew the homestead law. She knew that house was hers.
That's-
She knew that his death, because I'll tell you what, she didn't wake up that morning. I do believe this. She didn't wake up that morning, I'm going to shoot him today. She did. It was a spur of the moment decision. It really was. It was in desperation that she did that. So the only thing I can think of is when she told me, she said these were Alan's exact words to me. He told me, Miriam, I'm not going to leave you penniless. I'm not going to leave you homeless. You will have a home to live in, but it's not going to be here. And he said, I will never be in touch with you again. My lawyers will be in touch. Those were what she said, those were Alan's exact words, you know? And still she never admitted that I wasn't going to be with Alan. You know what I mean? She never admitted that's why he had to kill him, Marilynne. Nothing like that. So
Right.
it's just, you have to put two and two together, you know?
Sure.
Because when she got convicted, she said, my biggest fear is to not know where my next meal is going to come from.
Mhm.
You know, she said, I don't think I'd do well in a homeless shelter. That
Yeah.
kind of thing. I don't think I would either, but I don't think I'd kill for it, you know?
Right. Okay. Anything else right now? I can't think of anything else to
I
ask.
hope this was have help.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
It is
good.
helpful
Because it was on my conscience, and I was
Yeah.
like, I need to tell them
Right.
what I know.
Well, I
you know?
appreciate that because, I never really, she did, do an interview down here initially, and then she got an attorney a few days later. So I really only talked to her very briefly. A lot of the things that you're telling me make sense just from kind of looking at her people in her orbit and things that she did and that sort of thing. But I'd never, really had an opportunity to really talk to her.
She appears normal most of the time.
She does.
To me.
She's very soft spoken. From when I was around her, she was soft spoken and kind of timid acting, and but
That's an act, I'll tell you that right. She has a vicious, I've never met anyone as vicious as her.
that's the impression that I'm getting. Yeah, and obviously someone who can shoot someone who they supposedly love and married to in the back of the head,
and sit down next to them, and not even like you said, hold their hand. That didn't make, I didn't even think of that at first, but you're right. Just sit there.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now? I know that was what was going through her mind. What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
You know, practicing my 911 call, that kind of thing. You know, that's sad that you have to be vicious to be able to do that for money.
Sure. And did she say anything about, keeping the receipts from every place she went?
Oh, yeah.
What did she say about that?
She said that's a habit to stick it in her pocket.
Oh, okay.
I know her money and stick it in her pocket. But the truth is, I know she wanted to show every place she was at and every time she was there and account for every minute she was gone. I honestly get the impression she fed the horses that morning alone, because she told me that there was a eyewitness that saw Alan down at the barn that morning. She says, I'm going to tell you right now, nobody saw Alan at the barn that morning.
Because he wasn't down there?
She says, I'm going to tell you right now, nobody saw Alan. She had that shoulder injury. Anyway, she used that as an excuse. And I will tell you, she told me this from the beginning. I don't know if it's because she didn't want to clean that shower, but I cleaned the shower and she wiped off the table. You know what I mean? Because she said, it hurts my shoulder too much to do that shower. Well, I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but in the end, it turns out she doesn't like to clean. Her cell was disgusting. This girl spent 8 hours cleaning it. I won't go into details, but it was gross. You know what I mean? And so
she said that she had injured her shoulder.
Yeah. So when it came up in court that she had injured her shoulder and that had never come up before, I thought that's not really true, that part of it, because she told me from the day I met her that her shoulder that she had injured it, and she said it the same way in an ATV accident. You know what I mean? So I'm going to assume she really did hurt her shoulder. I don't know for sure, but I do think she fed the horses that morning alone, so it couldn't have been hurting too bad. You know what I mean? But she did admit Alan was not at the barn that morning. So I don't know if that has anything to do with anything.
Well, it definitely gives us different perspective on on things, and the fact that she told me that he had a gun in the sock drawer, that corroborates what his daughter had said when she found the gun in his sock drawer several years ago.
Oh, okay.
And we never did find the gun that he was killed with.
Right.
So.
I did know that.
Yeah.
I did try to get it out of her what she did with that.
Yeah.
I honestly did. Yeah. I was just more curious I never thought I would talk to you, to be honest with you. I was just curious for my own sake. What did you do with that gun? What did you do with the clothes? More than anything, I want to know, how did you not have gunpowder residue on you? You know what I mean? I didn't think it was possible you just brush it off. I mean, they said it was, but I don't know. So
you didn't actually come right out and ask for that, though, right? You did? What did she say?
She just looked at me.
You asked her, what did you do?
That's what I said. No, this is what I did say, though. I said, you left from here to go to Florida. I said, if you had that gun with you, I said, what would you have done with it? That's what I said. And she goes, there's a lot of places between here and Florida to get rid of that stuff, that kind of stuff. That's exactly what she said.
Yeah.
So I never came right out and said, what'd you do with it? And she never came right out and said, this is what I did with it.
Yeah.
But I said, if you had that gun with you, what did you do with it? Because I wanted to know, did you pawn it? Were you stupid enough to pawn it, is what I wanted to know. Because she told me that the police had gone extensively and checked out pawn shops, you know what I mean? So I wanted to know, were you really stupid enough to pawn that gun, But I'm not going to say that, but she knew what I meant. Don't get me wrong. Her and I pretty much could read each other after a while. We talked enough, And I didn't have to come out and say some things to ask some things, But she kind of told me I got rid of it between here and Florida because there's a lot of places. But she said, I guarantee you it wasn't in a pawn shop. But I did ask her, I said, don't you think it's the kids' rights to have that ring back if you pawn that? She kind of told me, and again, she never admitted anything, that those places that you put jewelry in an envelope and you send them off and then they send you cash, that's because she didn't have an ID. So she couldn't pawn stuff, she couldn't sell stuff. So she could do that without an ID. So that's what she did with Alan's rings, her rings, all that kind of stuff. She had no money, so that's how she got money.
So it was like through the mail. type thing.
Yeah, it's just there's no recovering it.
Yeah.
Because I did tell her, I said, that's because the real reason is I told her about Shane stealing this lady's ring, and the lady cried in court about it, and she was so happy to get her mother's ring back, her mom's dead, all that.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the only thing that Shane ever admitted he had remorse for stealing, is when he saw that lady cry over her mom's ring. So
Yeah.
that's what I brought up to her. I said, don't you think those people have a right to have their dad's ring? She hates those people, though. She hates his kids. She hates that family. She has no remorse over this. I'll tell you right now, she has none. That's why I tell you, she belongs in prison, a person like that. If she would have ever said to me, Marilynne, it was a stupid decision. It was something I did and I regret it. I would have told her, get up and tell the courts that, maybe you won't get life. Maybe they'll see remorse, but no remorse, that's a cold, cold person. You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of thing I don't understand. I don't understand how people think like that,
Right.
But
It is hard to understand, that's for sure.
But I'm not going to tell you she's a horrible person because she has some good qualities.
She had, Sounds like there were times when she was pretty easy to talk to and get along
Oh
with.
yeah, she's not judgmental. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you, when I first got here, I was crazy. I really was. I couldn't think without Shane. You know what I mean? I couldn't think. And my mind was obsessive, and that's all I talked about. Imagine that, sitting there, and the person that you're sitting across from talks about the same thing you'd be like, shoot yourself. She never said, Marilynne, I've heard this a million times. Never, nothing like that.
Yeah.
And I'd say, Miriam, I know I talk about this all the time. I'm sorry. She'd be like, you need to work this out. And then I couldn't look at you in the eye when I first got here. I would look down. I couldn't talk. I couldn't have a conversation. Every time I opened my mouth, I was told to shut up, that kind of stuff. So I was a different person when I first got here. And it was Miriam who said, when you talk to me, you look at me in the eye. When you walk with your head up. You don't have to be ashamed of who you are. She said, when you go in your cell, she said, you go in there and you tell yourself over and over, I'm worth something. I am worth something. She said, don't you ever let somebody do to you what he did to you, I do think I'm a better person because of her. I really will tell you that. I think I'm a better person. She took the time to work with me and even though I was a little bit controlling on her part, it's what I needed. I didn't need someone to baby me. I didn't need someone to say, oh, you poor thing. I needed someone like her to say, no, you look at me when you talk to me, I couldn't do it at first. I really couldn't.
Yeah.
So she has some really good qualities. She has potential. I can see what Alan fell in love with, you know what I mean? He could be himself and she wasn't judgmental,
Right.
Inside she was, but she wasn't on the outside. We don't
Yeah.
always know what's on the inside, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
But anyways.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, like I said, I may, at some point, ask to talk to you again.
Okay.
And if you think of, if there are things that you think of, if you want to jot them down, and then if you want to, send a kite down, and if you want to initiate it, that's fine too.
All right.
But I appreciate you taking the time.
I hope I helped.
Oh, I think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think that's all important information, and and it may be something that comes up in an appeal, if a new trial is granted or a hearing for appeal, those
Good.
things might come out. So
This is just a question. Say
Sure.
that an appeal came up on this stupid Las Vegas thing, right?
Mhm.
Because it was brought up through the attorney and he didn't use it. Can someone say, no, I have a witness that says she admitted that's a lie, and the appeal will get turned down?
I think that it's possible that could be the subject of a hearing,
Okay.
and at that point they may call you as a witness to refute that story.
Okay.
That's a possibility.
Okay.
But obviously, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't
You
know all
can't
the
give
ins
legal
and
advice,
outs
yeah.
of that.
All right.
But I would think that would be a possibility if there were at some point, a motion for a new trial based on that or any of the other things we've talked about.
Okay.
It's possible that you could be called, to testify at a hearing
Okay.
for a judge to determine, if there's, a reason for a new trial.
Okay.
But, and I don't know if you'll talk to your attorney again or not before you leave, but you can certainly, it's Marna Laker, you can talk to her about those things. She knows more about that than I do as far as from the legal perspective. But just from experience, I've seen that happen in other cases, so.
That's what I would want to happen, is
Yeah.
why I ask, is because I don't want her to ever get an appeal. I really don't. I don't want this family to ever go through this again.
Right.
You know, once had to have been a horrible thing, twice would be uncalled for, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I asked that question, is I want to get up
Okay.
there and say that, you know.
Okay.
I want to say she does not deserve an appeal. You know, it's not up to me, I'm not God.
Right.
But you know,
But you would tell a court or judge the things that
Definitely.
you told me.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, then that's I appreciate that.
Mhm.
So.
I don't want her to get an appeal. I don't want to see her out of prison.
Yeah.
She will. I'm telling you right now. I would be surprised if she doesn't kill in prison. She's not
Really?
a nice person.
Yeah.
She is not a nice
Well,
person.
You know, kind of from her history and everything, that I think that's been kind of our take on it too. You know, if she were acquitted, you know, the same thing would probably happen again.
I guarantee you that guy she met in Florida was in danger.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he was in danger. He was smart to, you know, he saw
I think
something
he
wrong.
recognized that she was too aggressive, and he kind of said, you know, this is not good. So,
Well, you know, she got away with it with Alan because he was lonely. He was
Mm-hmm.
older. You know what I mean? He was set, but I mean, from what I won't go into detail. It's disgusting. But what she told me, she pulled out all the stops, and he was like, "Yeah," you know what
Really?
I mean?
as far
So-
as their
Yeah.
sexual encounters or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, I'm down with this." You know what
Okay.
I mean? So
Yeah.
this other guy, you know, he does this for a living, kind of thing. He has these little internet
Yeah.
interludes all the time. He's
Right.
not looking for
He's
something.
not a recent widower who's been married to the same
Exactly.
woman for 30 years.
Exactly,
Right.
you know, so big difference, huge, you know what I mean? She
Sure.
would have had to, but she approached him in the same way, you know, when she left there, she made him initiate the contact with her, you know, she let him know that she was interested by texting him, but not be too aggressive, and then when he didn't respond, she didn't really know how to respond to that, because she was kept expecting, because she told me she pulled all the stops out with him too, you know what I mean? So, yeah, she was expecting him to respond to her, but.
And that worked in Alan's case.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
She set her sights on him,
Mhm.
pulled all the stops out, and kind of got what she wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me call down there, and I don't know if they're feeding right now or something. It might take them a little while to
Okay.
get down. If you need a glass of water or
No, I'm
anything.
good, thank you.
Okay, I'll be right back. You said that you read some of her books. What kind of stuff was she writing? Were they like romance novels or?
Always romance novels, full
Were
of like sex, I told you, you know, and I don't want to read about that. Definitely don't want to read about
Were they
that.
pretty graphic?
Oh, yeah. And then this one, you're going to laugh about this. She was, during the Louisiana Purchase. Okay, she loves history. And she's pretty intelligent. She really is pretty intelligent. She writes about this, and this guy is on a ship, and she points the cannon towards his ship and blows it up. And the guy that she's with, the girl that just blew that ship up, the guy goes, "Wow, I love a woman that likes to blow shit up." I
Really?
hear you're going to court
That's funny for sure, for blowing up, trying to blow up Alan's car.
and now you're going to brag that you like to blow shit up. I had to laugh about that. Some of the things I will tell you, I got a kick out of her sometimes.
That was funny.
I even made fun of her about it, you know. I
Yeah.
even made fun of her. I said, "Yeah,
Did she see the humor in it? Or?
no, she doesn't really have a sense of humor like
Really?
that. There's sometimes I made her laugh.
Mhm.
She told me nobody makes her laugh like I do, you know,
Yeah.
because I was blatant. Sometimes I would just be, you know, when I think something's funny, I laugh, you know,
Mhm.
and it's rude sometimes. That was rude to laugh at her book, but I said, I can't believe, I said, if the police read this, we like to blow up. I said, what do you think they would think? And she did kind of like,
Yeah.
just made me smile, but I know
Yeah.
she didn't laugh. But some of her books parts were interesting, you know,
Uh-huh.
like she lived in Czechoslovakia and places like that, 11 different countries while she was growing up is what she said. And she talked about crossing the border, and she got this candy when she was a little girl, and she's writing this in the book, you know. That was kind of interesting, you know, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Right.
So, because she had to sneak across the border. I mean, I don't really believe it, but it was still interesting to read, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess if you're good at making up stories,
yeah.
you know, maybe that's.
Well, the one thing that kind of makes me laugh is she's pretty good at her stories, but the names of her characters lack interest or imagination. So
Yeah.
this guy in Vegas that supposedly killed Alan, his name was Sammy. And I thought, Sammy in the
Sammy.
mob. Come on. Why did you just
This
name
was the guy that
it,
they
you know?
met and gave the $750,000 to for the business deal, or what kind of business deal was it? Did she say?
The land development that he was
Oh,
doing,
right.
that he wanted it. He wanted that business. He was laundering money. She doesn't even know really what that means, laundering money, but that's what she said.
Yeah.
Yes. And I said, nobody hands you $750,000.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Alan trying to back out of the deal, you know?
Right.
And then when she kept insisting the mob killed him, until I'm the one that pointed out, the mob would not have left him like that. He would have been face down. It would have been a statement from the mob that the mob killed him. I said, and that's, you know, TV. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's not, and then she started changing the story that, oh, maybe it wasn't a mob. And I did ask her, did you turn him over? You know, I said, did you, when you found him, did you turn him over? No, that's how I found him. I said, how do you get shot in the back of the head and fall back on your back?
Uh-huh.
And I even said to her one time, this made me curious. I forgot to tell you this part. It's real quick. I said to her, maybe he was laying down when he got shot. Nope, he wasn't. Real quick, answered me just like that. Nope, he wasn't. I said, how do you know? You just said you didn't know if he was on his knees, if he was standing up. You don't know what position. You just said. Police don't even know.
Mhm.
She goes, well, he wasn't laying down. Okay. And then I asked her about a horse tranquilizer because I know that her mare was to deliver a foal in July. And I said, I know you guys had horse tranquilizer. How do you know that? She acted suspicious about
really?
this. I did wonder if they ever tested for that. You know what I mean? If he had been drugged with that tranquilizer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that did kind of make me curious if
Uh-huh.
it was something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because she acted like, why would you need? She even said, why would you need to know that? So.
You think she was, so you think maybe at some point she was suspicious that you were passing information along, or that you were trying to
Sometimes
get
that
information
was,
from?
I'm going to say that's the only time I really remember her ever asking me. But it was kind of out of the blue, I have to admit. But it was something on my mind for a long time.
Yeah.
And we were just, and it did come out of the blue. I finally got up the nerve to say, what about, did you guys have the horse tranquilizer on your property? And she goes, why would you need to know that? And she didn't answer me. But I know just from what I've read, not that I've ever been around horses, but if a mare is going to go into labor, you have to keep that on your property, because if she goes into labor, she has to be tranquilized. She has to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, because the baby is in big danger if it's not. So I knew they had to have had that tranquilizer on the property, and all these other things led me to believe she was up to something. She, you know, you don't research all those poisons, all that stuff, not being up to something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know the average person that would research stuff like that.
Right, and
Especially death by nicotine. What would that have to do with the drugs that you take?
right.
You know what I mean?
I think it was liquid nicotine, I think.
Yeah,
So.
she did say that. But I will tell you, she told me she tried to commit, I already told you about patches. So,
Yeah.
I don't
And quite
know.
honestly, we don't have any evidence of that. She never told any of us that. So,
No.
But, you know, her and the truth are not exactly.
Not even to herself, I bet you.
Yeah.
I really do think she's far from the truth.
Mhm.
I do. I believe she's far from the truth.
Yeah.
It's like, that's such a stupid thing. The two things I told you, you know, she had an affair with Senator Kerry, you know, who's running for president.
Yeah.
And he sponsored some of her dance, you know, things.
Yeah.
Her dance, what they called, competitions.
Competitions. Yeah.
Yeah, he actually wrote the check, and she has proof.
I'm sure she does.
Somewhere.
So
in
did she
there.
talk about dancing a lot?
Her and Jack started it, and then he died.
Yeah.
So she continued it.
Right. Yeah, that seemed like that was kind of a passion of hers. You know.
Oh, here's another good one you'll laugh about. These are stories you can at least talk about around here and at least get a laugh after all this hard work. She thought when she got acquitted she was going to go on Dancing with the Stars. And if they asked her to do that, she was only going to do it if they let her take Keith on there with her.
Is that right?
I said, Miriam, those are famous. I'm famous now, she said. She really does believe this. She goes, in the book that she's going to write about Alan and her, Grand Junction gave me my 15 minutes of fame, and I'm going to take it, she says. No,
So was she
you
still
gave
planning on
her.
writing the book after she was convicted?
But she's going to sell the rights to somebody else because she can't profit from a crime if she does it in prison, you know. So she's going to sell. She honestly thinks it's a great story, you know. She honestly believes it's a great story.
Yeah.
But she believes she's innocent, you know. She knows she's not, but I mean, she
Yeah,
believes
she
she
puts-
convinces everybody.
Yeah, she tries to
is.
convince everybody she is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she wanted to make sure that she had Keith on Dancing with the Stars with her.
And that's a serious thing. I mean, it's something, and oh my God, you wouldn't have believed how many times I had to hear, they never read me my rights. They're going to have to let me go. I had to hear that every day for at least 3 months.
She must have
straight.
been disappointed when that didn't turn out to be the case.
I kept telling her, don't get your hopes up about that. It's not going to happen.
Mhm.
Every day, you know, she goes, they didn't even tell me I'm a suspect. So then I broke down and started laughing. I said, well, let me tell you, sitting here across from you, you're in red. I said, you're in a max security. I think you're a suspect. I said, God, I think you're a suspect,
Yeah.
Miriam.
That's funny.
Sometimes I have to say, sometimes I have those where I live in a fantasy land, but not quite that far in
Yeah,
life, you
I think
know?
she's totally immersed in it.
Mhm. After her conviction, I do think she went into it because she couldn't deal with what was going on. She couldn't face she was going to prison for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
You know, she was way too happy for someone going to prison for the rest of their life. She never did shed a tear about it.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
She never did shed a tear. That's why I told her, you've disassociated yourself from what's happened to you. I said, one day when you wake up and realize what's happened to you, it's going to be even harder if you don't face it right now. I said, you've got to face what's happening to you, you know. But you can't make somebody. If they're not ready, they're not ready,
That's
you know.
true.
So I did feel sorry for her on that because
Well, and
What's
it sounds
happened
like
to
she
her.
still has, she still has the idea that she's still going to get it appealed and that she's
Oh, yeah.
still going to get out.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, she told me that
Yeah.
she'll be out of here in 2 to 3 years. And she told me, you better have a place to live because I'm going to need a place to live. Damn, you think you killed your husband and I'm going to let you live with me?
yeah,
Nope,
exactly.
I've been through that. I'm never getting out something like that.
Yeah, I
again.
know. I probably wouldn't let her live with me if I were you.
Mm-mm. I wouldn't even want to be cellmates with her, you
Yeah.
know, honestly. No way. When she gets mean, she gets downright mean.
Mm.
And she doesn't stop. And if you're uncomfortable, it makes her even happier. So I would have to pretend like it didn't bother me, like the thing about the guard. I would just pretend like it didn't bother me, like I didn't even understand that she was making fun of me, you know. I was just like, ah, ha, ha, and I just kind of like pushed her and walked away, you know, and then pushed the button to come in. But I did hurt my feelings. I did cry for about probably 3 days over it. Stupid, I know, but because I kept telling myself, she just did it to be mean because you wouldn't read her stupid book, and I knew why she did it. It still hurt my feelings.
Sure.
And nothing wrong with that guard. I should be glad that, you know what I mean? She's a nice lady, so it's not like I'm sad that she compared me to her. It's just the name she calls her, things like that, you know.
Right.
She has a nickname for every one of the guards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she has a nickname for all of them.
Huh.
They were all nice to us, I have to tell you, all of them.
Yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's no reason not to treat people, respectfully, whether you're in jail or wherever you are. So, yeah. Hopefully, you're not missing lunch today.
Yeah, really.
I'm sure they'll take care of you.
Yeah, they will.
Miriam Helmick has filed multiple appeals of her convictions, but all of them have been rejected by the courts. She remains in prison. Prosecutors believe that by 2008, Miriam Helmick was drowning in secret debt, having forged loans and taken out credit cards in Alan's name. When Alan began questioning the couple's finances, detectives believe Miriam feared her deception was about to be uncovered. Prosecutors argue she first tried to kill Alan in a staged car fire, then, when that failed, shot him to death inside their home before staging a robbery. The state says the motive was simple: money, control, and stopping the truth from coming out. The investigators who solved Alan's murder continue to suspect that Miriam could have been involved in the death of her first husband, Jack Calloway Giles, who was found dead in his bed with a gunshot wound to the head.